Pardue, hereby call the Board of Education regular meeting to order at 5:40 p.m. A quorum is established with all board members present. Do we have any closed session public comment cards? Wait, no, I'm on the wrong page. My bad. Please note that this meeting is both recorded and live streamed for public viewing. I would like to welcome the community in attendance this evening. As a reminder, governing board members' meetings are a business meeting of the board held in public, and although public participation is encouraged, it is not the public's meeting. It is the duty of the board president and or clerk of the board to maintain an orderly, respectful, and peaceful meeting where all perspectives, voices, and opinions are welcome. Please refrain from speaking while another person has the floor. At the scheduled time on the agenda, individuals wishing to provide public comment will be called upon, one at a time. To do so in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, the board cannot and will not respond to non-agendized items. But a staff member will reach out to you on matters that may need to be reviewed as appropriate. The board did not take any formal action in closed session. I call on Sophia Shoemaker for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Repeat after me.
I pledge the States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item D3, approval of agenda. I call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item E1, student representative reports. Megan Lewis, Murrieta Valley High School.
Good afternoon, board. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to share what Emily has been up to this past month.
Is presentation act goes back.
Okay, so academics, our AVID program for 11th grade juniors, just got back from their field trip. On that trip, they went to, I think, 5 colleges, like 2 each day. They had a lot of fun, learned a lot. And of course, our first 6-week period of second semester is rapidly coming to an end. Both history and English departments are completing district final assessment. Along with that, all grade levels have completed their district graduation requirements, such as senior cumulative project and junior reflective task. We also have office hours every Thursday and Friday, which is a great opportunity for students to go and receive help they need or to make up any work. We have ASVAB is available for students coming up, I think, February 17th. That is very exciting for students who just want to figure out more about what they want to do and all of that. Our attendance has increased by 0.48% within last month. It is now 93.78% versus 93.25%, which is pretty good, and that's our average daily attendance. And we also have lots of community service options available for the students that still need to complete their hours, or if they just want more and give back. Winter sports, we just had our dance and cheer teams come back from competing in nationals in Florida. Our dance team did phenomenal, and they did make it to semifinals. Cheer, they were some Division II small co-ed finalists, and they did amazing, and they were highlighted in quite a few videos. Girls water polo, yet again, are league champions and Division II, well, almost Division II winners they finished CIF playoffs round 2 yesterday, and they're moving on to their next game, which is Division 2, but round 3. They're doing really well. Girls basketball does have a game tonight for CIF playoffs. I'm not sure who they play, but they do play at 7 at the Hawk House, which is going to be a good game. Boys basketball, their season unfortunately did come to an end. They had a game Monday, and we had only a second time thing happen on our MV program. This is the second freshman to receive 500 points and ever playing, which is pretty phenomenal, especially being a freshman. Our boys soccer team has ended their season as well. Unfortunately, those two teams should not make it to CIF playoffs, but we are all super proud of what they accomplished this year. Girls soccer played CIF playoffs yesterday, unfortunately lost against OLU, which is Orange Lutheran, and they said it was fun, but there was just a clear difference, but they all had fun, and we're very proud of them. For wrestling, both boys and girls completed their senior night and are finishing up duels. They're amazing. We're so proud of what they accomplished, and we can't wait what next season holds for them. Culture and climate, we've had our first club rush of this semester, which took place on Tuesday. We also had our school site council meeting, which we went over safety for students on campus. That was also on Tuesday. We have our spring rally coming up. Our mock trial team, I don't know if you guys know this, but they're pretty awesome. They made Elite 8 against the Final Four, which is against Temecula Valley, Riverside Poly, and I think another school, which I'm not 100% sure on, but they are getting ready to compete in the courtroom. They have made it really far this year, and we're super proud of them. Today, we had a dress-up day to start Valentine's Day, and it was, wear red if you're taken, white if you're single, and pink if it's complicated. And I'm in class with a lot of these kids, and it was really odd. I saw a teacher wear white, and everyone thought she was married, and I was like, what happened? I got in a fight with my husband, and all this stuff. But it's okay. It was really fun to see everyone participate. We also had our robotics teams compete in states. Team C is waiting to hear back if they made states. We're pretty sure that they did, because they are amazing. I went to that competition, and I don't get it. Like, I don't get how they can be so coordinated yet, like, understand what's happening and, like, predict the next thing while coding. It's really amazing. I highly recommend, if you get the chance, to go watch your robotics competition. We are also coming up with President's Day weekend. I am so excited. Like, yes, we've had short weeks, but I'm pretty sure everyone is needing this short break just to recover and prepare to finish the rest of this season. It's clear. Thank you, guys.
All right. Next, we got Caitlin Coleman from Murrieta Mesa High School.
Hello, good evening, board members. I'm so excited to see you all. So right here, one really important thing, just to remind everybody, prom is coming up. Prom ticket prices are going up, unfortunately, but it's gonna be prom, and prom's super fun and exciting. So please let everybody know to come buy their tickets. So right here, we can see the wonderful Beast leadership team that we have celebrating Counselor Awareness Week last week with our counselors. They decorated counselors' offices. They had a whole lot of fun with that and just got to spend a lot of time with them. For activities, we just had our Chevelis High School kickoff where all of our clubs and different classes, like electives and all that stuff, got to go meet with the middle schoolers, and we have a lot of interest. A lot of people are signing up for sports, which is going to be super exciting for next year. Then we have our graduation night tickets coming up. Those just went on sale. That's supposed to be really fun. I can't wait to be a senior so that way I can go, but it's going to be at Universal Studios this year. And then right now we have Senior Spies, which is a really big competition. If you look at our Instagram for it, you can see like students hunting to get each other out. But today's immunity was to walk backwards and touch your nose when you're sitting. So if the person who was like targeting you caught you without that, then you were out of the prize. And then our unified sports team, they just played bocce ball and they won. Right there, you could see them. They all have like their crowns. And this was our group of seniors this year. So that was really exciting for them to win. And then our Chinese cultural club, they also just celebrated Lunar New Year. So they had a whole spirit week for that. And then they had a lantern festival in class. For academics, we have our course selections happening right now, which is really weird to think that we're already at that point of the semester. Like, we're looking at my schedule and I'm going to graduate next year. Really weird. And then we have our one-on-one counselor meetings, which are really good for all of our students to just make sure they're progressing properly and they're going to be on the right track to go to college and graduate. It's also just really good for them to check in with somebody to see how they're doing with friends and all that stuff to make sure that every student gets a chance to talk one-on-one. So we also have incoming freshman parent night. They get to find out everything for college requirements to graduate. They'll find out all about sports, and it'll be pretty emotional for most of them because I know a lot of parents have a hard time with their kids going to high school. And then we have our junior reflective task. We just started that. For us, it is due April 7th. So excited to start that. And we have RAM athletics. It's kind of a really weird in-between spot for us. But our stunt team, we just had a girl sign up to college. Or two girls, sorry. So they're super excited to go perform there professionally. And then our football signing, he just got to go play to an Army college, which is super good for him. And then also, just wanted to highlight it, we have a sophomore who just got 4 college offers to play football for them. Just a sophomore, that's really awesome. And then our girls water polo league finals just happened. I don't think we did like pretty okay. But they're wrapping up their season with a few tournaments left. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures, but they'll be out soon. So I'll get to show you next month. And then our Mesa Boys soccer, they just had their senior night where they got all their awards and it got pretty emotional. And then our boys basketball team, they're also wrapping up their season, but they're wrapping up pretty good with a win against Great Oak. So we're pretty proud of them for that. And then our boys baseball team, they're already starting their preseasons. They're doing tournaments basically every week. It's pretty crazy and hectic for them. Our Mesa Performing Arts team just did a production of The Enchanted Bookshop. I don't know if any of you guys got to see it, but it was supposed to be really good. And then our MVUSD honor band got to come perform at Mesa with all of our middle schoolers and our high schoolers. That had a great turnout. We had a lot of people show up to come watch that. For Mesa Culture, our Beast Athlete of the Month was Jolie. She is an amazing student. I don't know how she does it all. She is so involved. She's also our Renaissance Leadership President. She does it all. I am in awe of her every day. And then our Staff of the Month is Mr. Broussard. He's our not our activities director. He's our sports director. He is crazy busy all the time. I don't know how he does it because we have so many sports. And he really just deserves this spotlight on him for a little bit. And then it's also Black History Month. And so BSU decorated student services, and they're also decorating all of the doors on campus from what I understand. And then our RDN Rams Daily News, they're coming up with weekly facts of African-American history to show. And then I also think we have a few fundraisers that BSU's producing. They're going to do a gumbo and a seafood buffet fundraiser, and it's always so good. You guys, this food is amazing. Totally worth the $11.
And invite us.
It's really good. I totally recommend it. So we're all super excited for that. We wait for the days that this happened. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Gavin Larson, Murrieta Canyon Academy.
Hey everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Feel like I just saw you guys the other week, so we're back already. So there's not really that much to talk about because it's pretty much been short, but we'll get into it right now. So one of the clubs we have on campus is a Bring Change to Mind club, focusing on mental health. And I myself was in that club, but they went to some of our students in that club went to a meeting in San Diego with all it was a student summit to where all the kids in a mental health club at their school, all talk about ideas and events that they do at their school and what helps them and what helps us. So they went there to talk about ideas and what we can do better at our school and what they can do better at their school. So there's that. And then academics hasn't been really much, but our seniors did their culminating projects. They we rarely have dress up days, and they don't dress up. This is like the first time I've ever seen our school like that much spirited. Like they actually decided to dress up. Like MJ at the bottom actually like dressed up like he's like doing construction, and then Sam was at the top like as a doctor. Like it was kind of funny, to be honest, like seeing them dress up like that. Like some of them, like I don't know, I never really saw Sam to be a doctor, to be honest, but she is, and that's what she wants to do. I mean, I'm not trying to throw any shade. I'm not trying to throw any shade, but yeah, it was fun to see. It was fun to see all the students dress up how they want to, what they want to do, and what they want to do outside of high school once they're done. And then for activities, so as you may know, MCA, we don't have many students, so we don't have sports. So this is pretty much the closest thing we get to sports. And as someone that used to play sports, this is like really fun, something I'm looking forward to. This is the only one we've had was a fun Friday. We played hide and seek the whole entire school. And like, it's crazy. It is crazy. Like, they said last year we were allowed to hide on top of roofs, but this year we were not allowed to hide on top of roofs. They said something about like kids were gonna get hurt or something. I don't know about that. But yeah, we played hide and seek. The whole entire school played. It was like, I think it was the second week of school. Second week of school we played. There's 3 seekers. Like the first round, the seekers sucked, so I had to play seeker the whole rest of the other 3 rounds. And dude, I killed it out there. Like everybody got caught. Like nobody got. There was like a safe zone. Like after like a minute of hiding, you had to come out. So it was very fun. Like we all get together. We all loved it. We all leadership. We all come with ideas. But since there's no school tomorrow, I'm not complaining. We don't have school tomorrow. Either way, if we did, it would be raining. But we wouldn't have it. But anyways, as I said before, we do celebrate birthdays, but we also celebrated the counselor appreciation week with Miss Arizola and Miss Kimball. It was amazing. All the students love our counselors. They all got to sign it. And I mean, these activities are pretty much what MCA is known for. We all love it's all meant for us to get back on our feet and to socialize with everybody else. And like, I'm telling you right now, I love it. Like I love it because I can't play sports is the closest thing I have to it. So in leadership, this is something I don't love actually. Miss Kowalski is making us wear our leadership shirts every Friday, and we get points. If we get points deducted off our grade if we don't wear a shirt. And I forgot to wear my shirt last week, so I missed like 5-10 points. It was very frustrating. But yeah, I mean one of our students designed our shirts, and we all wear them right here. I'm the only one in that picture wearing a polo, so I'm special, I guess. I got to brag in front of everybody that I was different and I'm not wearing that shirt. But and then the Air Force Academy came to our school and presented to everybody what Air Force is all about and what opportunities they have for them. And yeah, that pretty much sums up everything we have for this week. Thank you guys, pretty much.
And Sophia Shoemaker, Vista Murrieta High School.
Sorry. Sophia, she's going in. I think you heard it. Yeah. I saw nobody was sitting there.
Good evening, board members and everyone here today. Isabella woke up sick today, so I'm filling in for her. And I'm excited to talk about what we had at Vista this past month. So to begin with the activities on the ranch, we had Club Rush. And with Club Rush, it gave clubs the opportunity to show students what they have available, and it gives students an opportunity to seek their interest and sharpen their skills. And in our Club Rush, we had over 100 clubs represent. And then this is really important to our campus because It gives everyone a way to have a seat at the table and overall express their interests. And second, we have our dance team. They went to Orlando for nationals. I believe they went to semifinals, so we're very proud of them for that. And then our indoor percussion had their premiere to start off their competition season. They have their first competition this Saturday, so we're excited to hear about that. And then next, our drama program has been working very hard. They have their production of The Addams Family, and that begins February 20th to the 22nd. And then next, we have Scholar Bowl. Scholar Bowl is a way for our students to participate in teams and compete for scholarship money. We have had 2 rounds or 3 by now. And then we have our championship round, I believe, in like a few weeks. And then lastly, for activities on the ranch, we have our upcoming spring sports rally. That is next Friday, the 21st, and it's Mario Kart themed. And then for academics, our biology students are learning water through erosion and the impacts of the environment. Our Expo 11 class has participated in student-led Socratic seminars focusing on the book Fahrenheit 451. And then they've been using various AVID strategies in various ways throughout our campus. And then our chemistry classes have been working on a soap business. So student groups are creating their own soap, and they've planned a marketing strategy for that, and it's presented through their business product. And then our seniors have been doing their senior culminating projects, and that's an example of a neurosurgeon. And then for winter athletics, we have girls wrestling. We had 6 girls make league finals, and then they have CIF this Friday. We are very proud of them. And then for boys wrestling, they have CIF matches tomorrow, February 14th at Great Oak. And then for boys basketball, they are league champions, so we're very happy about that. And then yesterday, they had a game against Los Alamitos and unfortunately lost by very little. And then for girls basketball, they finished their Southwestern League with a shared 2nd place title. And then next, we have girls water polo. They finished their season, and they did amazing all throughout. And then Unified, they had their senior game, I believe, last week. And then our last 2 were girls soccer and boys soccer. For girls soccer, they had their match against Warren High School yesterday. And then our boys soccer team are league champs, and they have a game against Bonita High School today. And then for student support, we had our first rodeo. So we had an amazing opportunity to welcome our parents and incoming 9th graders onto campus. Parents had a chance to meet the teachers and various students, and we did this through a rally. So our various leadership programs were able to share what we're about, the different athletics were represented, and then we had various performance groups perform. And then we also had high school kickoff at Dorothy and Warm Springs. And then at high school kickoff, we were able to show our feeder middle schools a little bit about what we have at Vista. So our athletics, sports, our clubs, our different performing arts groups. So it was very cool to talk to those students and just give them the overall experience and knowledge about Vista. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Do any of the board members have any comments about student report?
Great job. So that great job. And I would love to see the hide and seek game on the roof. That would be actually kind of not fun, but dangerous. Gosh, thank you for showing us for the gumbo.
All right, and I love hearing you guys just supporting one another no matter what happens with your sports teams. I really appreciate you guys. So you did a great job, and if you guys would like to leave and go do homework and other cool things, you are free to go.
Well, they don't have to go to school tomorrow, but.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right. So next we have public comments, and we currently have, looks like we have 4 public comments on this item, and then a few more for a specific item that we'll have later. Right? Okay, so first up, I have Jeremy Murphy. Mr. Jeremy Murphy.
Hi, I appreciate the time. I'm a dad to 3 kids in the district. I'm speaking on G6, which is the reduction in staff. And it's just pretty simple. I'm just hoping the board can shed a little light as to the rationale here, because the action item says that it's based on financial projections. But then it was a couple months ago, I think, there was the interim budget review where it said that, quote, the district will be able to meet its financial obligations for the current and subsequent 2 fiscal years. So it's just like those 2 statements kind of seem at odds with each other. So I'm hoping the board can provide more clarity on that. It might be something as simple as like a reduction in temporary funds. I know there's a lot of districts that are seeing like COVID funds expire and things like that. But I hope in the name of transparency, you can just take a little more time and make more information publicly available so that the public knows that you're making an informed decision on these important roles. You know, Nick, you do preach about transparency, and it was just a couple of months ago where you said that, you know, we do need to rely on the data. So it'd be interesting to see kind of like with the reduction in the staff, you know, what are the caseloads that are lost, you know, the numbers of families that won't be served anymore, you know, other individuals impacted by this decision. You don't really have to look much further than your LPAC goals to see, or your LCAP goals to see the negative impact that this might have on stakeholders. And it might be justified, but there's just no way of knowing without all that information. So the LCAP plan for 24-25, for instance, specifically says that there's an increased need for comprehensive counseling practices in MVUSD, and it states that you're shifting your support model from for foster youth from counseling to social work, which is really cool because then they have, you know, they can provide those regular check-ins, academic progress monitoring, regular group meetings, tutoring, et cetera, all those proactive supports that those target groups need. And then the LCAP update from a couple months ago even said that the district needs to continue to build back these programs and supports to ensure equitable access for these targeted student groups. So I was wondering if you've reviewed how removing these FTEs will have an impact on those LCAP goals. I know there is, in the action item, it says, you know, absent other solutions. So my hope is that you maybe think about tabling it so that you can research possible other solutions and have that discussion openly. Maybe there is a viable option, maybe there isn't, but if you can share how this has a minimal disruption to services that your own LCAP goals say are pretty critical, then, you know, you can proceed with the reduction of services. But by doing the action without having that context and pertinent data, it's kind of a lack of transparency and irresponsible governance. Thanks.
Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, I'll provide comment on that later in the meeting.
All right, next we have Ms. Lori Nielsen.
Last year, Nick Perdue and a couple board members voted to prevent you, the voters, to decide if you wanted a bond to help modernize, fix, and build new schools. But instead, Nick Perdue came up with an idea. Well, not came up with an idea. Instead, Nick Perdue spoke about some funds that he intended to get from the state to help our district out and secure some money for us. He said it would be his #1 priority. So I'm just curious to see how it's going and where we stand, and are we getting the funds, and what's the latest? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Mrs. Suzanne Gonzalez.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I actually could stand up here and say to the gentleman who spoke first, ditto, because he spoke everything that I feel like I needed to say right now. The truth is, I just learned yesterday that our mental health specialists were no longer going to have employment at the end of this year, and that was just devastating news to me. So I am not at all researched or prepared to speak intelligently and effectively on the budget or where funding comes from. I do want to speak on behalf of student impact and teacher impact on the loss of these 2 caring professionals. And of course, this issue is farther and wider than one school site. But I do want to say that after having students in my classroom alone as one single teacher and the difference that these two individuals have made for those students, I respectfully request a pause on any immediate decision and find out where the impact really is and the significance of the impact on those that we serve the most, and those are students, of course. My dad has always said, when you need to make cuts, you don't make cuts on the front line who are providing the actual service, and of course our students are the ones being served. So I respectfully request that we consider their needs first and foremost above all. And on that note, we just completed at Vista Murrieta High School our accreditation visit, and one of the feathers in our cap was everything that we are doing for students' social emotional health. That was the first question asked. And of course, what we touted in our report. So this devastating loss to what we consider one of our strengths is going to be felt far and wide. And I feel that without the services that we provide now, our accreditation visit would look far different in 6 years. And hopefully we get, the 6-year accreditation visit. So I just wanted to say that the information is not really making its way out there in terms of the impact on students and the subsequent impact on teachers and counselors. And I just wanted to make sure that we are informed and we understand the process and that we do everything we can to serve students and their needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mrs. Angela Talarczyk.
I am here to speak out against resolution number 242517, which seeks to reduce, discontinue, and eliminate K-12 mental health programs and services for Murrieta students. These services are not optional or a luxury. They are essential. Do you truly understand the role of mental health specialists? We provide critical support to all students by providing individual and group counseling, crisis intervention, grief support, check-ins, case management, community referrals, and resources to meet basic needs. We support parents and provide them with necessary resources. We mentor students in foster care or experiencing homelessness. We help chronically absent students overcome barriers to learning and train teachers to better support their students. Our school-wide programs address suicide and drug prevention, as well as mental health awareness, ensuring a safer and healthier environment for all. Every day, we work with students facing suicide ideation, dating violence, sexual assault, teen pregnancy, self-esteem struggles, substance abuse, eating disorders, bullying, self-harm, depression, anxiety, grief, cyberbullying, and the list goes on. The weight of these issues is immense, but we show up every day exhausted. Yet we are determined because our students matter. We also act as a safety net to catch issues early before they develop into more harmful, dangerous, or violent actions. Cutting mental health support will have lasting consequences on academic success, school safety, and overall well-being. A strong education system requires both academic and mental health services. Counselors, teachers, and social workers must work together as a team to support and educate the whole child. This decision will have a profound ripple effect, impacting students, parents, teachers, classrooms, and the entire school community for years to come. Our district's mission is to inspire every student to think, to learn, to achieve, to care. One of the board's beliefs is that student physical, mental, social, and emotional health are integral to learning. Are these just empty words? Do our actions align with our words? Cutting vital mental health services contradicts this promise. Our district talks about the power of moments. I love that. You now have a moment to do the right thing for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have employee organization reports. Ms. Lisa Murray, MEA President.
Good evening, Dr. Andrus, President Perdue, and trustees. I'd like to thank the trustees for joining MEA leadership for dinner last Friday evening. It was a pleasure having the opportunity to get to know each of you better and to talk about how we can work together to achieve our common goals of providing the best possible education for every child in this district and ensuring the success of our students and the strength of our schools. Achieving these goals requires a strong collaborative partnership between teachers, administrators, parents, and the school board. A partnership built on respect, transparency, and a shared commitment to excellence. While we may sometimes see issues from different perspectives, we firmly believe that collaboration is the key to achieving the best outcomes for our students, teachers, and the district as a whole. We are committed to participating in meaningful dialogue, to problem solving that puts education first, and to making decisions that reflect our shared responsibility to this community. I hope we have given you the opportunity to get to know us better as well, to see that we are not here to oppose, but to collaborate. We are not here to demand, but to advocate. Because at the end of the day, our success is intertwined. When teachers are supported, students succeed. When students succeed, our entire community benefits. So let's continue to move forward together with open communication and a shared vision for the future. Our students are counting on us to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have our superintendent report. Mr. Dr. Andrus.
Thank you, President Perdue. Just, I have a few comments. One I'll address about one of the public comments made, and then also the other comments around item G6 later in the agenda when we introduce that topic. Before we get started, my report, and we were late coming back to open session on time, and I have to acknowledge the 5 individuals sitting to my right. 3 are brand new board members. The other 2 have a combined total experience of 4 years on the board, so 2 apiece. They have not taken, we spent a lot of time about many decisions that will be addressed tonight, and these folks were very, very serious. They asked very pointed questions to me and my team. They are feeling the weight of what it means to be a school board member and the challenges that it comes with. And so they don't take it lightly. And so I really appreciate that. They're being very thoughtful. Regardless of what you think about any of these 5 people, good or bad, they are doing great work trying to weigh it all out. And I witnessed it firsthand tonight in lengthy discussions, so thank you for that. I very much appreciate that. Taking it very seriously. The one comment around Mr. Perdue seeking funding, I will tell you that is a regular conversation he has with me about how do we get more funding for our school district. He has not dropped that ball. There are multiple ways in which schools are funded in the state of California. It is a very, very complex matter of how schools are funded. We have actually joined a small coalition of about another 70 districts who are just like us with our type of demographic and funding model. And we have joined that group to advocate at the state level for increased funding for our school district and districts like us. And that came because of conversation from Mr. Perdue, me doing a little research with colleagues around the state, and so we've joined a coalition of like school districts to participate in an advocacy group with School Services Incorporated. So I just wanted to share that information, like we have not forgotten about that need. Your taxpayer dollars at work, Proposition 28. If you're not familiar with Proposition 28, it is a blessing for us. Proposition 28 was passed by the voters. It provides, and James will correct me, but I think it's 1% of the state's budget is for visual and performing arts at the K-12 school level. And so for us, that's multiple $1 million every year. Correct me, approximately three, right around, it depends on the state budget, up and down, right around $3 million for additional VAPA, visual and performing arts services. So we are really excited about the things that you'll be seeing. We are having even our elementary schools producing drama plays like Frozen Junior, right? And so things they would have to normally pay for and so forth, they're not having to do that. We're also offering to any member of the community who is age 60 and older, which I don't know if we're checking IDs, it's really an honor system. You can get a free pass to come into any play at no charge. So we want to invite all of our folks who are 60 and above. Again, we're not checking your IDs, but just get the pass from us. Come and see. Oh, there they are. Oh, back in the back, there's a poster on your way out. These are all the plays coming up at our 3 high schools. Pick one of those up on your way out. One of my favorite nights, I'm pretty sure that my wife is going to go to, is Mamma Mia Sing-Along Night at Murrieta Mesa. So that's your tax dollars at work coming through the state to a school district, to the community, and our students. So I want you to be aware of the great work that's happening there. And thanks to all of our staff and parents who are making that happen. It wouldn't happen without them. As you've heard from the students, winter sports are coming to an end, spring sports are kicking off. Our TK and kinder enrollments are underway. Many of our residents will receive a postcard like this in the mail about TK and what is transitional kindergarten, who's it for. Transitional kindergarten is free. We've put these little banners on our vehicles as well, so if you see these signs, that's what it's about. So we're really excited about that. And we've seen a little surge in enrollment for next year for our 4-year-olds, or soon to be 4-year-olds. And I wanted to also, in addition to, and conclude my comments around this, I want to thank our parents who have participated on the redistricting committee. That has been difficult work, and they've taken it very seriously. And all the parents, the over 2,000 or 3,000 total surveys given, giving feedback on the potential boundary changes over the course of the 2 sets of surveys and the 2 public meetings we've had. And again, the board spending quite a bit of time looking at lots of maps and having conversations about everything from how long is the bus ride to what's the impact on traffic to what do we have to do to improve schools so that we can accommodate all of this, and what does that plan look like to the best of our ability to forecast that. So I appreciate all those involved in making that decision. It is an absolute pleasure to be a superintendent in the state of California. It's also very hard. However, to walk classrooms with board members and see parents, like I was out in the rain today, and walking around and seeing guest speakers, saw a young man who was once a Lisa J. Mail student, who is now a professional musician, coming back on the arts fair night today and presenting. And this kid was a kindergartner at that school. And to see that circle happen, like to come through our system, be a performer, be a professional performer, and come back and give back. That's a joy about the job, and to be able to see that firsthand. I know we're not perfect as an organization, but no one is. But to see and feel that on a regular basis, it's an absolute treat and it's a pleasure. And so I just want to express my appreciation to our staff who make that go every day and make this place great. So thank you. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Andrus. And now for our board member reports, and we're going to start with our student rep, Ms. Shoemaker.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. My report is very short, but I just wanted to begin by saying that at Vista, starting today, we did the LCAP survey, and then we also had our WASC visit this week. I was lucky to be able to talk to a lot of these employees that were there. I was able to go to a meeting with various other students from every corner of campus, and we were able to talk with these people, and they were very impressed by our campus. And some examples of things they were impressed with was the phone usage on campus. Not that many people use their phones, so that's a very amazing thing. And they also were talking about how the culture of our campus is and how social it is, and they would walk around and see students socializing with each other. So with that, I just wanted to say that as a student, a part of this district, I'm really grateful for all the staff members and everyone who provide such a good opportunity for us students to go to school here. So, yeah.
Thank you. And next up, Mrs. Munoz.
Hello. From the last board meeting, I had mentioned to you guys that I was going to be attending Brown Act training. I did do that and learned a lot of really good information. I think that will enable me to serve the community better in this role and make sure that I'm doing it in a way that is compliant with the law, which is something we have to always be cognizant of. So thank you for the opportunity for getting trained to do that. And then I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, even though it was already acknowledged in the student report, but our Vista High School basketball boys winning the Southwestern League. So super proud of them for winning the Southwestern League outright, but also the first time in Bronco history that they get to CIF Division I. And even though it wasn't the outcome that the boys wanted, super proud of them and the work that they put in, and Coach Carlin for building up that program over the last several years. And even more than that, like, so proud of our community. I've mentioned before, you know, because I attend a lot of the athletic events in the district, not just basketball, but our community always shows up for the kids in really meaningful ways. And unlike some other, you know, districts in Southern California, in respectful ways, like, we really do a good job of modeling community pride and spirit. I saw that last night. The amount of family members that made the trek out to Cerritos last night to cheer for our boys was really great. So thanks everybody for that. In line with the continued idea of growth, this Saturday, I will be attending the first of Masters in Governance sessions. So again, trying to deepen my strength of knowledge so that I can better serve the community in this capacity. And the last thing I want to say, just in the spirit of serving the community, over the last several weeks, I want to acknowledge, you know, what has been an influx of outreach that I have received from so many members of the community, parents, students, teachers, classified staff members on a variety of different things. There's a lot going on in our community. There's a lot going on in the climate of our country, and people are feeling it. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that. The varied topic of outreach that I have received from the community has been quite significant. Not all of it is within the scope of the school board, but it doesn't mean that I don't hear you and that I don't take into account the feedback that you're giving and the trust that you put in the 5 of us up here to represent you and the interests of our students and our community. So in the same way that you guys show up for our boys, show up for our girls, show up for our athletes, I want to show up for you, and so I just want you to know that I hear you, I'm getting your communications, I'm taking them to heart, and that's our number one duty, I think, as board members, is to make decisions in the best interest of the community and for our students and in furtherance of our mission, and I know that's what I'm here to do, so thank you.
All right, and next we have Mrs. Schmidt.
Good evening. First of all, I would just like to say happy belated Counselors Appreciation Week. As we kind of heard earlier, we appreciate our counselors so much, and it's belated because it was last week, but we appreciate you so much. And I just wanted to say that, first of all, in everything you do. Last Friday, I attended an MEA dinner, which was very fancy and very good food, right? It was so good. I got to meet the MEA leadership team, and they were all very lovely. I really enjoyed my time meeting them and making these new connections. So I want to tell them thank you, and it was a very nice event. I also got to meet with Darren Daniel and James Whittington for the redistricting, and I just, and they answered all the questions, and especially being new, they're so helpful and patient in answering questions, and I just want you guys to know that I appreciate you a lot. I finally got to go on some site visits, and this is my new favorite thing of being a board member. I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing. So I was able this week to go to Murrieta Elementary, and wow, that's just wow. It was such a beautiful campus, and from the classrooms, the library, the playground. I learned about PlayWorks, this structured play that all our elementaries have, and it's just so amazing. There's so many things with running a school that just little things about like having signage on the walkways or where the bike racks are located, just different things like that, how kids play at recess. And it was just kind of blowing my mind of all the things all the thought that goes into, like for our principals and our superintendent and the team, the assistant superintendents that go into making everything run smoothly. I also got to see the TK sensory garden beds there, and oh, it was just amazing. And again, thank you to Vince. Vince again and his crew, I mentioned them before, but I'm giving you another shout out because it was just beautiful, and all the things, and the principal mentioned you again, so I just wanted to tell you again, thank you to you and your crew. And then an interesting thing happened at Murrieta Elementary. Dr. Andrus was with me, and he learned about whisper phones for reading for the early grades, for the littles. They're like these little red phones, and the kids read into them, and when they read, they're whispering, but they can totally hear themselves. And we use these in classrooms, so for guided reading and things. So, and that brought up an opportunity. I thought, oh wow, with our CTE, we're trying to go through with the pathways of CTE. We could have our middle and high school students possibly 3D print them for the elementary students, and then teachers don't have to pay for it out of their pocket. So I was like, wow, this would be an amazing thing. So thank you, Principal Key. Had an amazing time. And then I was able to also go to Buchanan Elementary and meet Principal Norton and Vice Principal Moeller. Is that how you say her name? I want to pronounce your name correctly. Sorry. And their campus was beautiful. And I was able to see different classrooms and many different supports that are offered for students to help them be successful. Again, I was just like, wow. I saw a 5th grade teacher doing centers, which are like little small groups in 5th grade, which I love. That was really amazing, I thought. And here, just like at Murrieta Elementary, kids were coming up to the principal to tell him hi. They were telling her hi. Just, you could tell that the kids really loved their administrators and loved their schools, which I was happy to see. And again, a shout out to Vince Baroni and his career again. The principal is commenting on the flower beds that he and his team had created and different things that they have created. So wow, I have never met Vince or your crew, but I'm really looking forward to it. I need to meet you now because I hear your name all the time. So great job to you and your crew. So thank you to those principals for allowing me to come. I was just amazed. And as a parent, my kids are older, so they're not in elementary school anymore, but I thought just at least for these 2 sites, I would love for my kids to attend any of these sites, and I'm sure it's going to be the same for every site I go to. So just amazing teachers and staff and administrators. So that was really fun. And then lastly, I would just like to say happy Valentine's Day tomorrow to everyone and President's Day weekend. I hope everyone has a nice restful week and is able to recharge. So thank you.
All right. Ms. Young.
Okay, and I was also at the MEA dinner. Thank you for inviting me. It was a very pleasant evening. I got to meet a few people I didn't already know. So I went to the DLAC meeting, and that's for English learners. They gave a lot of general information about the district, talked about TK, which has been brought up already. The playground, that was covered well, so different meeting though. They talked about that, and I've been observing that, and I've been really impressed. Mrs. Gonzalez talked about the multi-tiered systems of support that we have for our students. Mick Wagner talked about the bilingual seal, I said that backwards, the seal of biliteracy, which I've had students get from my classes too. I went to Cole Canyon's Career Day. I was really, really impressed. So it was mostly parents, maybe all parents, volunteered. They took the morning off. They had a different parent in each classroom. Plus, there was a highway patrol officer outside with his car. The students rotated in 30 minutes at a time, so it wasn't possible to go into every classroom. Everywhere I was, the students were very engaged, very interested, asking good questions, like every single one of them. And I can mention some of the ones I met. There was an anesthesiologist, a highway patrol officer who let them get in his car at the end of his spiel, in pairs, of course. There was a plumber, a dog trainer, a nurse. There were journeymen from Southern California Edison, and they should get the award for the best display. It had wires, and you could see the electricity and everything. There was a United Airlines pilot, a veterinarian, and a hairstylist. And I want to do a shout out to Felipe Zanartu, he's the main organizer. He is also was our district educator of the year and he is now the County Educator of the Year. So I'm not sure if this is going to spread to the other elementary schools, but that would be awesome. And I want to thank all the parents who gave up their morning to do this. I understand there were 18 of them. So I also went to the United Sports Bocce Ball, which was brought up earlier as well. It was high school, so there were the 3 Murrieta high schools, plus Chaparral and Great Oak from Temecula. And I actually play the French version of it. So there's a group of French people in this valley who get together and play, they call it pétanque, but it's the same rules. The balls are made of metal with the French ones. So I went to the APAC meeting, and I wish somebody would have warned me to bring tissues. It was really moving. This is Black History Month. The theme was the spoken word. So there were quite a few people that got up there and read poems. They mostly had written the poems they were reading, and it was, I wish they would come in here. Some of them could come in here and read their poems at a board meeting, just a suggestion. It was so moving. So anyway, I went to the LCAP meeting as well. I was double booked, so I could not stay for the whole meeting. And I did do a site visit to Thompson. I went into some 7th grade English classes. They were analyzing texts. They were well on their way to being ready for high school from what I saw, high school English. I went into an 8th grade math class. They were working on algebra. I went into a couple of 8th grade social studies classes. It was American history. Some of us were in the spelling bee last night. I beat you to it. So I was a judge in the spelling bee along with Dr. Andrews and Mrs. Briggs, and it's a 3rd year in a row I've done it. It's a wonderful event. The big thing is I want to just give a shout out to all these kids who had the courage to get up on stage. I mean, that's really hard. You know, there was a big audience. They were clearly stressed. They handled it with dignity. So I really think they're all winners. I do want to congratulate the 2 that came in 1st and 2nd place, and I'm apologizing in advance for messing up their names. There's Jason Z, or she, I don't know how to pronounce that. And then Malik, I think I can get this, Abu Tahab, and he came in 2nd place, so he will be the alternate. And that concludes my report.
All right, and now Mrs. Briggs.
Yes, I was at the spelling bee with Miss Young, and I have to tell you, when I got that, if Shannon's listening to this, and I got the email, I volunteered to help. They sent an email to the whole board that said, hey, anybody wants to show up and help? So I sent the email. She sends back a couple days later, I have you listed as a judge. I panicked. I'm like, I do lots of spell check, and I rely too heavily on technology, but I did it anyways, and it was actually super fun. And thank God for Joe Parla sitting next to me, because if it wasn't for Joe, he was the head judge, so all the responsibility fell on him. But it was a great experience for 2 reasons. One of them is that to see those kids, like Nancy said, get up there and show up and show out in front of all those adults. And then the second thing is I would have been eliminated in the 1st round. And there was 11 rounds, you guys. If you've not been to one of these, that was my very first one. I'm encouraging everybody to go. This past month, feels like it hasn't been a month. I feel like we're just here. I'm on my 2nd MIG course, the Masters in Governance classes, which I get to do from the comfort of my own home via Zoom. Thank you to the district and Julie for coordinating that. Super informative, lots of information, and I'm excited to finish out this course. And then I also met with someone from the community regarding parent engagement, which for those of you who know, when I started on this board, one of the biggest things for me is that my focus is parent and community engagement. And so I actually met with somebody from the district who has hyper excited about it as much as I am, and probably has more wealth of experience in doing it. And so I'm excited about that partnership that we're going to be forming. And I'm actually going to visit a school site that has a parent engagement center. I told Dr. Andres to give me a heads up just so that we can just dream and see what we can put out here for Murrieta in terms of a parent engagement center. So that's in the works. I attend the redistricting meeting again with James and Mr. Darren Daniels, and lots of questions for them again, which they kindly answered. Just a lot of information. And I just would love the community to know that, you know, when the team went in and they started this redistricting process, which was well before my time on the board, it's extremely thoughtful. It's extremely thought out. The panel that has been put together by parents in our own community from each area gave very important input into this, and I'm just very grateful for the time that they've invested. So please know, whatever decisions that we come to as a board, it never comes lightly. We took this oath of office to come in and to be a good representation for our parents, students, and community, and I promise you we will uphold that. There's no doubt in my mind that whatever decisions that we make as a board are going to be decisions that have been carefully considered. So I'm very grateful for that team that has been working on the redistricting project. It's been amazing. I went to a few lacrosse games because my kids happen to be lacrosse players from Vista. One of them got beat pretty bad. One of them kind of made it, but I love lacrosse and hockey, and I will go to all those games, except if you're one of the parents who are going out there and you're a freshman parent, get dressed warm. It is freezing. They played on one of the coldest nights, but those kids just get out there and they just play, and they don't even care about the cold. They don't, period. But to Miss Yvonne's, Miss Yvonne's point, the parent community here for our district is phenomenal. The support, the people that come out to support the kids in these athletic programs it's kind of like I've not seen it before, and I'm very excited about it, and I'm grateful for it. And then and I want to give a shout out to Miss Faith Munchnick. She was, I forgot, she was the spelling bee master. So we called her, they called her the master, like literally, that's what it is. She did a phenomenal job. Her voice inflections, her delivery, everything about that, she was the perfect master. So great job to Faith about that. I thought of you because the LCAP is coming up. I'm like, so the LCAP, why did I write LCAP down? Oh, I went over all that paperwork this week, and you know, it's a lot, and Dr. Andres has just covered the gentleman's point to what he asked for, whether the funding comes from LCAP. There's so much involved, but that is included in it, and with that reporting that they're doing, they put a lot of work into that. You can just tell by what's generated. So it's available to the public. If you guys have an opportunity, get on there and take a look at it and see where that money is being spent in terms of accountability and transparency. It's there, it's right there, and it's amazing that this team with Faith and her team have put that together, and it's a lot of work, so just kudos to you guys. And Dr. Andres, thank you for this week. Dr. Andres was the arbitrator for that spelling bee. I've seen him in different capacities in the district, and I'm excited about going on to more school site visits. I met a couple principals last night, so that wraps up. It seems like a lot, but it's not.
All right, thank you very much. And now for my report. I want to say how amazing it's been the last few months, the energy. We have a really good board. We have so many different perspectives represented up here, and I think Murrieta would be really happy to just know how serious each one of the board members takes their job. Lots of questions, lots of research, and just very engaged. So that's been really pleasant. And also that we're getting into education issues. You know, we're able to get along and function as a team, which is amazing. The one thing I wanted to mention in my report is that I've spent a lot of time, because there's been a lot of meetings and parents and text and different issues that come to us as a board. And sometimes people don't really completely understand what the dynamic is. But as a board, we do not run the district. We don't make decisions. In fact, our agenda, Dr. Andres and I meet together and discuss agenda items. Sometimes those agenda items are generated by board members, and sometimes it's from the staff. In this particular situation, it just so happens everything came from the staff. So a lot of times we're notified when the agenda is put together of different items that come up, and sometimes I get notified by emails that I start receiving about specific issues, and some of those are on the agenda, and of course are very serious issues. So I wanted to clarify that so that people understand what our role is we are a governing board. but we also represent the taxpayers. We represent the community as a whole. And Dr. Andrus and his staff run the schools and have to make some of these decisions, and then we have to decide whether or not those are the decisions we agree with as a community or not. So I wanted to make sure we clarified that because it seemed as if there was some misunderstandings there. I will say also I got a chance to see MV basketball, and just, Eleanor, so you know, this is why I encourage all my children to play basketball beside their height, is it's indoors in the wintertime. And it was great to see the kids, you know, all of our sports, if you guys all already know, the kids are so supportive. You heard that from the student reports of each other. The energy at our sporting events is really good. I thought this year I really felt like the sportsmanship was much better, at least at the games that I attended, so I was really happy to see that. It was just wonderful to see the kids compete. The other things, of course, that I was involved in was meeting about redistricting issues. That was big. Behind the scenes, a lot of curriculum issues. We have math adoption coming up, and we've met quite a bit about that and had lots of discussions about that. And that's, we also on February 27th, we're all going to meet as a board and discuss some of the goals and things that we would like to accomplish as a team. And in part of having a team and discussing some of these issues, it was such a unique experience for all of us, I think, to attend the MEA dinner. Lisa Marie, I appreciate the invite, and it was also nice to meet some of your other members, and Julie Palladio, I see there, and of course, I had a long conversation with Chris Schultz, who I found out was from Wyoming and likes to fix cars. So it was unique because I've been on the board now for 2 years, and of course, most people know it's been sometimes contentious and different things. And I think also on the school visits that I've made, it has been interesting to have principals want to pull me aside and then talk to me because they've heard about me before they ever met me. And I think that was really valuable to develop relationships so people understand the humans behind the name, really, because we all are humans. And I do think in some of these meetings, we realize that we do care about the same things. Even in our closed sessions today, we do care deeply about our kids and these students and education. And that's why we're here. You don't just randomly run for a school board just because. We're very involved in education. So it's just neat to have a team. It's neat to feel like we're building relationships and we can help move the district in a positive direction. And I'm hopeful that we continue to do that. Additionally, as community members, you need to know that we are your advocates. And make sure, especially for people listening at home, that you do reach out and talk to your board members about any issues that you have so that we can address them and we can find out what's going on and how we can help you. With that, concludes my report. So moving on. Consent calendar. Was that item F, consent calendar? Consent calendar items are voted on collectively as a group upon board member request. Items may be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and individual action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar F1 through F6 as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item G. Action information items. Adoption of resolution number 2425-16, recognizing School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, February 15th, 2025. Call for a motion.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. G2, approve the 2023-2024 school accountability report cards. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, any opposed? Motion carries. Item G3, measure BB Citizens Oversight Committee update.
Forget our student.
Oh, I'm sorry. And for those of you in the audience, we have decided to have Ms. Shoemaker vote with us. So we are assuming her eyes are with us.
Unless you say something.
Unless she says something like, I oppose that whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And right now, so item G3, Measure BB, Citizens Oversight Committee update, and we call on Mr. Paul Parker, our chairperson. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Dr. Andrus, School Board, thanks for having me come in. And I'm glad to be here, and the committee is glad to work with the district. The purpose of the committee shall be to inform the public concerning the expenditure of bond proceeds. The committee shall engage in the following activities to carry out this purpose: actively review and report on the proper expenditure of taxpayers' money for school construction, advise the public as to whether the school district is in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, section, I'm having a little trouble seeing that, of the California Constitution, convene to provide oversight for, but not limited to, ensuring that bond revenues are expended only for construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, or replacement of school facilities, including the furnishings and equipping of school facilities, ensuring that no funds are used for any teacher or administrative salaries or other school operating expenses. We have almost a full committee at this point. Through the years that I've been on the committee, we see pretty good turnover, but the way we're set up is that we have different members from different parts of the community. So I'm the senior citizens group. We have some at-large members. We have active PTA parents. So it really is a great group of people, and they're very, very interested, dedicated into doing the job they've been asked to do. I've been impressed. We meet 4 times a year. We met 4 times a year last year, and we will meet 4 times a year this year, including we met this week. I hope your eyesight is better than mine. All members are encouraged to question expenditures and request to oversee or check up on the projects at their respective schools. As an example of that, we were blessed to make 2 visits to Murrieta Elementary School during the construction, and it was eye-opening, and I think brings to light how involved it is to run a school district and build schools. Throughout our reviews, no inappropriate expenditures were found in the business year. The committee has continued to meet quorums and maintain members in elected positions, chair, vice chair, etc. As a committee, we are proud to report no financial abuses within the scope of the Measure BB funds. In 2025, the committee remains dedicated to overseeing the spending and progress of various projects across the district. I do want to say one thing. In the 3 or 4 years I've been on, I've had the chance to work with 2 assistant superintendents and their staff. Some have gone, some have come. And I think I speak for everybody on the committee. Their dedication and their professionalism to do it right for our district, our kiddos, is impressive to me. Any questions?
I have a question. The vacant position that you have, how is that filled? Is there like a call of action to the community for participants?
Really good question.
Darren, take that one.
You got it.
Yeah. As Mr. Parker said, we have a number of positions for, qualifications of, a particular member. If we have interests, oftentimes they come through my office and they will arrive on your board agenda for approval. But it's pretty much open if, people just want to show interest and be involved. Again, over the years, we've had people come and go, sometimes come on excited, but have to leave us because of some kind of conflict of interest. It might be for a variety of reasons, become an employee of the school district or whatnot. But overall, the committee's purpose is to be able to have that checks and balances for our bond measure. And like I said, very diverse group, comes from a lot of backgrounds. And so we typically have one or two spots open, but if you have someone or want to have a conversation about the open spots, be happy or delighted to be able to participate in that conversation and help onboard folks. I have to say, over the years, a lot of our folks that have come onto the committee have really come through school sites or our Board of Education.
I think 4 years ago, I found out about it probably through an article in Murrieta Patch, but 4 years ago, I can't really remember, but that's what I think. But okay, anything else?
I do have a question. How long do you guys, when you guys meet, how long do y'all meet together?
That meeting normally lasts about an hour.
Okay, and you're all volunteers?
All volunteers.
Lovely.
Right, and we have good candy and good cookies if you want to come join us.
I might just show up for the candy and cookies there.
That's the only reason I show up.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Great
for
job.
having me.
Great job.
All right, item G4, approval of personnel report, calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G5, approval of variable term waiver. Yep, I would like to reconvene our meeting. Do we need a time or are we good? 7:03. And we're on item G6, adoption of resolution number 242517, resolution to eliminate and or reduce the number of certificated management employees due to a reduction in particular kinds of service. I call on Dr. Andrus.
Thank you, President Pardue, and members of the audience, and including those who made public comment earlier tonight about your concerns about this reduction. We do not, so a couple of things I'd like to share about where we are and how this came forward. Again, this is not something that the board brought to us and said we want to reduce this. This is something that staff and my team looked very carefully at as we deal with a couple of different budgetary things and balancing that with services to students. We don't take it lightly, and it took us multiple months and many different iterations of how and where do we make reductions in our staff. So a couple of things I want the community to be aware of and those in the room listening. Our district's budget is it's a fluid moving object all the time. And it's based on enrollment we have and the different funds that received through different programs that come from the state, like a grant or something else. In this case, years ago, the school district and districts across the state and the country received federal or enhanced state funding for all kinds of COVID relief efforts, everything from hand sanitizer to masks to supporting students' mental well-being. I reflect back 30 years ago when I started as an educator 30 years ago, we were tasked with keeping students physically safe and learning. Our task given to us by the community as a whole, kind of in general, or society, is keep kids safe, keep them learning, and help their well-being. That's a whole nother layer that's come to us over the decades. And so we don't shy away from that. We recognize students need to be in a good position to learn. And so we do all these things and strategies to help take care of kids, their social and their mental well-being, so that they're ready and prepared to learn. In this particular case, Murrieta Valley Unified School District had hired 8 employees in this particular kind of service, and they were part of the management team. So it's not a classified employee nor a teacher in that teachers association unit. It's part of the management team. And that was funded through COVID relief money. And that money has all been expended, and there is no more coming. In some places, some of the services that we added at the same time, for example, are additional elementary school counselors. And so what brought us to this decision point is recognizing those funds have been eliminated. Our current enrollment in the district has taken a little bit of a dip, a greater decline than we had projected. So we are deficit spending. We're deficit spending this year because of the amount of staff we have today. And we cannot continue on that path, or eventually the district will go bankrupt. And so we have to right-size all of our expenditures. Prior to this motion today, this activity, the district, from June 1st, when the budget was adopted, to today, my team have eliminated 5 administrative positions out of our budget by not backfilling certain positions that we had budgeted for. So we've already reduced administrators by 5 out at various sites and locations that were directly supporting students. So we recognize what this means and where we are, the type of service they provide, how they work with them. And we're not eliminating all the positions. We would retain 3 positions overall in this method, and we have found a way through the number of counselors and some of the other services we have, the overstaffing of positions in certain schools, that we can still provide a high level of service, not identical, because clearly it's a reduction in service, but we still have a way to provide services to all of our students. And that brought us to this point tonight, to where my staff and I have brought this recommendation forward to the board for consideration.
All right, thank you. So in order for us to move forward on this, I know that we want to have a conversation. I think each board member has something to say on this particular issue. We do our motion first.
Correct. We need a motion and a second and then comment.
Okay. I move for the adoption of resolution number 24/25-17. Do I have a second? Oh, I need a motion. Sorry.
Oh, did you make a motion? Sorry.
I'll make the motion. Yes, I made the motion. We need a second. Hearing none. Motion fails.
Motion fails. There's no vote then. If there's no second, then the motion doesn't go forward for a comment or vote if there's not a second.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Is he vote?
No. So Mr. Pardue made a motion to adopt the resolution and he called for a second. If none of the other trustees seconds the motion, then the whole item fails and there is no vote either. So it just stays as is.
So that also includes the dollar amount. So it's important that you understand you're making a decision by not making a decision. I think it's important for the new board members to recognize that.
I recognize that. I don't move to second it.
I second.
All right. Having a motion and a second. Now we have a discussion.
I have a comment on this. So I recognize that any organization, any business, any entity, any school district doesn't want to be in a position where they're deficit spending. There's hard decisions that have to be made in any organization when you get into that situation. But our mission is about the kids of our community. And these are sensitive services that speak directly to the mental and emotional well-being of our kids. These are the type of services that have life or death consequences for our kids. This should not be the place that we're making cuts. It just shouldn't. It goes contrary to our mission. It goes contrary to who I believe we are as a community. 3% of our student population is homeless. Mental health aside, those kids need support. Where's it gonna come from? I hear that, well, there'll still be services available, but access will be reduced. We are a very large district. Kids need support in this area. The instances of student self-harm just in the last 60 days has been alarming. These students need these services. This is not the area that we should be making cuts. We need to make some hard decisions as a district to right-size the deficit spending, but this isn't the place to do it. Not when you're talking about life and death situations for kids.
I have a question. So, Yvonne, Ms. Munoz, I hear you, and I agree, the whole mental health issue, and we mentioned this in the back. So here's the question then that I would have is, you know, where then the staff has done what they do to figure out where to endeavor to, you know, tighten the budget. Where would you recommend? Because according to Dr. Andres, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we decide to pass this up and just not do anything about this, the money to pay these particular 5 or 3 comes from the general fund.
Correct, because the other fund where they've been funded in the past has been expended.
Expired.
So it just becomes a general fund expense that we would have to build into the budget.
I have some comments. Are you finished?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that when we make this decision, either way, that our community knows that if we don't, it's just like a budget at home. If you don't have it in this fund, you're gonna have to pull it from another fund, and I wanted to make sure we all clear where that is coming from.
Yeah, I was working in the district to the south of us, and they hired their social workers well before, a couple years before the pandemic. It had absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic. I'm a high school teacher. We were all just so grateful to get those. So we desperately needed those social workers. And I can speak in a general sense. As a teacher, I've experienced having multiple students attempt suicide. Fortunately, not successfully. I've had other students that had to be hospitalized for mental health issues, some of whom I managed they allowed me to keep teaching them through Zoom. This was like a year and a half ago. Every year, I've never made it through a school year without a student not losing, like I've had at least one of my students lose a parent every school year. 2 years ago, 3 of my students lost parents. We had a student, not mine personally, on campus who actually lost both parents in 1 year. One to cancer, one to COVID. I mean, I personally lost my father when I was 19, so I can relate to this stuff really well. I understand the budgetary constraints, but I think we absolutely need this extra layer of support for our students. You know, it's a village, you know, we're part of the village along with the parents. You know, we need to keep our kids safe. So, you know, I think we can find a way to work this out without eliminating these positions. And yeah, I think I've said everything I have to say about this.
All right, I'll make some comments. One, this is an elimination of certain funds, and what I had spoken before, and I think this is earlier, our district is in a really bad spot when it comes to LCAP funding, and that's where we get money for our teachers, for personnel, and the like. We're at 50% of what most other, roughly. I hate to overstate, and people say, you're conflating it. And we're about 50% less than what neighboring districts have, except for Temecula. Temecula is in the same boat we are. So we're in a more difficult position than most other districts. That's just a fact. I know this because I work in another district down the road. And it's one of my biggest concerns is because we have to be leaner than other districts and make really tough choices like these. And when you consider for a minute that this is the same funds, we'll be negotiating with teachers soon. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this also coming from the teachers' funds as well?
So we're funded through both a general fund. There's a couple of little smaller pots of money through the federal for certain programs such as Title I and Title II, things like that. But it's, in general, we have a general fund, then we have an additional fund called the LCAP, or the Local Control Accountability Fund, and that's the ones you're referring to that is significant.
That we don't have that much control over, ironically.
Well, we have, yeah, it used to be local control. It's much less control than originally started under Governor Brown. So it's a little more specific. And it's also simply less. And we're tasked with lots of things to do with that. That's why we asked the community to take that survey. And so it's these positions, in this particular case, this particular kind of service, we had this additional one-time money that has now been expended. And so we have to find a place, if the board chooses to retain them, we have to find a different place to how to fund them, where that fund comes from. And so that becomes a task internally for us to work on, and that would be reflected in this coming budget year at the adoption of next year as we look forward to next year. It also does have impact on things like what's available to us to provide for hiring additional classroom teachers to keep class size low. Or if we're keeping these services, then it's maybe a few less teachers because they'll have a bigger class size. It's all this really difficult, and that's why I think when we were talking earlier, it really sensed the seriousness of our trustees in this consideration. So it does have to come from somewhere if they're not retained.
So my point, and of course, being an econ teacher, we have unlimited wants and we have limited resources, and that's what it really comes down to. And I think that's what makes this really difficult because teachers, and we're not reducing, I'm sorry, let me back up a little minute. The teachers are the ones that are teaching kids. I am on a daily contact with students. They see me every day. And since COVID, one of the big things, and this is part of why this money was made available to the state, is that I've had to change the way I teach because of some of the challenges that we're talking about and some of the challenges that public commenters brought up to us. And I think the whole staff is really, really aware of the changes that have happened post-COVID. Some of it we're seeing, you know, at least from my perspective, there's some that looks worse and some looks a lot better. You know, it's really hard. It's a bit of a mixed bag. But to think that we're just taking our eye off the ball entirely, I don't think that's a fair assessment, because I think Rich had pointed out in closed session the variety of services that are available. We do still have 3 social workers, even in this proposal.
Yes, even with this reduction, we retain 3 positions, 1 at each high school.
One at each high school. When we look at this, and I know some people say, well, you get really upset with the state of California. Well, that's because that's where most of our funding comes from. It's also the people, we are what I would call equity losers, right? We get less money because of the governor's priorities, all right? It's not a personal vendetta, it's policy. And as a result, we went from California having a budget surplus to now having a deficit. I think James had mentioned we put an overemphasis on taxing, and this is really important. I think everyone needs to know. If we're going to go after the super wealthy have jets, and they get in their jets and they pack up and they leave, and now we're getting 0 of their tax dollars. And that's a huge problem for us as voters. So we need to pay attention and hold our lawmakers accountable, because now we're in a deficit. So when we over-rely on that kind of funding, we're stuck here holding the bag, right? So I think that's what makes this difficult. And I understand from the one thing that's really heartbreaking that we heard about in closed session was that some of the personnel that are involved just learned about that just recently, probably when I learned about what was going on. So unless the community's prepared to have more kids in a classroom, unless the teachers are prepared to either take a hit, and I'm not saying it, I'm saying this is what it's going to come down to. So you have unlimited wants, limited resources. We're going to have to decide what to do. And I know no matter what we do, it's going to be a tough decision. And I think there's a lot of consequences to not taking action on this item. So I'm advocating that we do make this tough decision. And I think, does anyone else have any other comments?
Additional comment. I really like, Eleanor, your analogy to like your checkbook at home. Like you have to balance your home budget. All of us are parents on this dais. And I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with being food shortages, you know, without home. But oftentimes as parents, you have to make decisions when you're balancing your budget at home. And I know myself as a mother, I always prioritize the needs of my children over anything. If you ever see my kids running around, they probably have like $500 sneakers, and I'm wearing shoes from the dollar store, right? Because that's what we do as parents, right? We prioritize the needs of our kids over everything. So to me, this isn't a hard decision. It's simple. Our kids more than ever are dealing with depression. Our kids more than ever are dealing with mental health issues. To me, it's a no-brainer. If it was your kids and you were balancing your budget, you would prioritize the needs of your kids over anything else. This is no different, and we're here representing the community. And the parents of our community would easily make this decision and put the needs of their kids first, and we should too.
I appreciate that perspective, but to be quite honest with you, not every single student in our district is suicidal or having those issues right now. So, but the consequences of this vote will impact every single student. Every single student will be in an overcrowded class. Every single teacher is going to be looking at inflation without any prospect of a pay raise. It's going to put our district with even more problems down the road. So I think that impacts everybody, whereas what you're discussing is impacting a small group of people who will still have access. It's not as if we're eliminating the position.
One death is too much.
This is true. I'd like to, let me finish my point though. I understand and I get it, but oftentimes that one death didn't even access the resources we have, and we can't say whether or not one death was a result of the fact that we have one less counselor on staff. So I think it's disingenuous to say that this decision is just going to create chaos for all of our kids and that we just don't care about our kids or our kids' mental health. We have been, as teachers, we spend so much time identifying what's going on with students and hypersensitive to what's happening. I think the district is making a wise choice in making sure the people most at risk are at the high school level right now, and we have those services there. And if the middle schools needed more resources, then we could be able to address those.
I mean, I've heard even from you about the way that the teachers are already overburdened with the classroom sizes that they have now, with the extra responsibilities that they have today. What we ask of our teachers is already quite significant. You remove these resources, which are alleviating even a fraction of the burden from the teachers, it has to go somewhere. And I'm sorry, but having 3 for all of the middle schools and high schools in our district is not enough.
Imagine for a minute if I'm a teacher and I have a small classroom, I can interact, and I do interact with all my students. It's very important to me, and I know it is important to all of our staff members because I know the teachers in this district as well. Let me finish my point. My point is, if you add classroom sizes, now I'm going to have a much harder time connecting with those students and being able to have those conversations because I have way more students, and we are the front line. I know that we think the social workers are the ones that are frontline interacting with the students every day, but it is the teacher in the classroom that sees those kids, greets those kids, interacts, can see the mood change, can understand what's going on, and we can direct them to the resources they need. And Mr. Ridout had pointed out we have lots of resources, and we had these resources prior to COVID, and we are retaining. This district is retaining social workers that we did not have prior to COVID, so that we are in a better position than we were before, but we don't have as many positions as we had earlier in this year. So it's a very difficult decision, but I disagree to say that we are just simply don't care about our children, because I think it's fiscally irresponsible to put off a difficult decision because of the impacts that we're talking about right now.
We absolutely have to make difficult decisions. My point is, this is the wrong one.
Yeah, I still would like to comment on that. For keeping 4 social workers, for one thing, I don't like the idea of pitting social workers against teachers. We're all in this together. Secondly, retaining 4 social workers will not cause dramatic increases in class size. We're talking about all these schools. It will have a little bit of an impact, I agree, but it won't be massive impact.
I have a question, Dr. Anders. Can I call on our CFO? Or is the team who managed the reduction?
Well, there's a variety of us who will respond.
Sorry, I don't know if that was a surprise. I'm so sorry.
James, you might as well come to the podium, and Rich, you might as well turn your mic on too.
I just want to know, in light of budgetary things and just what the example of my own home budget, oftentimes when I don't agree with my husband, we have to go back and resharpen the pencil. Is there spaces and places somewhere within our budget that you can foresee that outside of in the general fund, that we can make some other changes? Or is this like this drastic thing that if we don't do this today, then oh my gosh, we're going to go like downhill? I'm just asking, just for a friend.
I think I'll share the same message I shared when I presented first interim. We have a very large budget. We're entrusted with millions of dollars of taxpayer funds, and we don't take that lightly at all. But I say this all the time, we can do anything with that budget. We just can't do everything with that budget. So we've looked at lots of options. There are other things we're considering. We're in a position where we're deficit spending at a pretty large clip, and we will be over the next several years. And so it's time to start right-sizing that. We have some ending fund balance that gives us runway to have time to address that. But the earlier we act, the less those reductions need to be over time to help balance the checkbook. So we have some, to use the home budget example, some savings built up to give us some time to make those reductions. And hopefully we have some retirements and resignations that help eliminate that. But we need to take action earlier so that we don't have to make more severe cuts later down the road when that problem is right in front of our face.
When you say severe cuts, what does that look like?
It could be a variety of things. I mean, there could be wholesale reductions. It could be as severe as furloughs. The whole gamut, it would be on the table. And then if we get to a position where we're unable to make that at the local level, the county superintendent and the state agencies start to get involved in terms of taking over the school's finances to make those decisions for us.
Thank you.
I do resent this idea that we're trying to pit one group of people over another, but it's a reality. It's a reality that was just reiterated right there. We only have so much money. And so we're going to have to make tough decisions, and that's up to us to be responsible with the taxpayer dollars. And I know that we all probably have our positions on the way we think about this. Unless there's more conversation, I think it's time for a vote. Any other comments? None? So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, let's do a roll call vote. Roll call vote. Ms. Young?
No.
I'll go Mr. Pardue, yes. Ms. Briggs?
No.
Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Ms. Munoz?
No.
Motion fails. Moving on to item G7, approval of proposed attendance boundary adjustments for all comprehensive elementary and middle schools within the Murrieta Valley Unified School District starting in the 2025-26 school year. I call on Darren Daniel for a presentation.
Did this have public comment? Was this the item that had public comment?
We do, yeah.
You're right. We have public comment. So for this item, we have 5 public comments. First up, I have Ms. Chris Tomasian.
Good evening. When I moved here in 1991, my daughter attended Curran, which was all portables placed in dirt or mud, depending on the season. When she moved to Chevala, it too was all portables. The community had voted down 5 bond measures, which left the board at that time scrambling to house all of the students who were moving into Murrieta. While the students had classrooms, the quality of education was impacted. I remember my daughter coming home from school excited that she had used a microscope in science, but they had to wash the slides off in a bucket because the portable classroom lacked a sink. Eventually, the community passed school bonds, allowing permanent schools to be built, but not before the board moved to year-round school to increase the capacity for more students. I was elected to the board in 2001, and the struggle to keep up with facilities for our growing community continued. At one point, we were building a school a year. With that came numerous boundary changes, so I understand the process you are going through now. One of the strategies used by prior boards was to start a new school on a separate campus while the new school was under construction. MVHS and Thompson both started in the back section of Chevala Portables. My youngest daughter attended Curran when crowding made the building of Tovashal necessary. Students in the Tovashal boundary attended school in the portable at Avaha while their permanent campus was being built. These portables are now the preschool. Prior to the bond vote in June, Dr. Andrus made it clear the boundary changes with and without the bond would be completely different. With the bond, only West Side students would be impacted. Today, the community's bond vote was blocked by Pardue and Vandergrift, and all schools and all families in the district are impacted. I've heard concerns about the populations at various schools being uneven. Back when Males and McElhaney were about halfway complete, the housing market crashed and all of the future home building in those schools' boundaries was stopped. We were faced with either shuttering the schools and hiring security or continue construction and figure out a way to attract students from the rest of the district to transfer there. We continued construction and made the schools arts-focused, and families flocked to the campus. I urge board members to, first of all, respect your constituents and give them an opportunity to vote on a school bond to build a much-needed West Side school and to upgrade classrooms and security. Secondly, be open to thinking outside the box and be creative with solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Emily Brooks.
Good evening. As an MVUSD parent who lives on the west side of town, I'm very concerned about the proposed boundary changes as they do not sufficiently meet the needs of the schools in my area and will result in serious overcrowding over the next 5 to 10 years. Eat Hill Curran, where my son attended kinder through 5th grade and my daughter pre-K to 4th, is projected to be at 95% capacity in 5 years, even with the boundary changes. And Murrieta L, where Maya went to 5th grade, will be at 110% in 10 years. Thompson and MV will also remain at or above capacity for years to come. Even if more desks and classroom space can be squeezed into those sites, neither one has the auxiliary facilities to accommodate those kind of numbers. To provide a comparison, I attended a large elementary school with about 1,200 students, an average of 200 per grade, but that school was built to be big. We had 2 gymnasiums, 2 libraries, 3 offices, 3 playgrounds, and a massive NPR with 2 separate lunch lines and staggered lunch time, so we never had to wait more than a few minutes to get food. Without those extra facilities at our sites, I worry that the current and MES students will struggle in the classrooms and miss out on key activities and support services throughout their formative years. I'm also very concerned that these new boundaries do not account for the community's desire and our kids' very real need to maintain consistent feeder patterns from TK to 12. Some neighborhoods, including my own, will have kids bouncing back and forth from a red team to green team, from elementary to middle to high school. That means they're missing out on peer friendships that they've developed over years. Looking at the new maps, this will happen not only to my neighborhood, but to small groups of kids in many areas across the district as they transition from elementary to middle to high school. Taking into account how important consistent peer relationships are to adolescents' emotional and social development, especially if we're trying to cut therapists and social workers, this does not bode well. I was so glad that my kids could stay at Curran on interdistrict transfers even after we moved out of the attendance area after our first 2 years there. But unfortunately, due to personal circumstances and transportation issues, they had to change feeder patterns from elementary to middle school, and it was really rough. At Thompson, my son struggled for years to find his place among a sea of new faces. He knew no one, and they didn't know him. At Curran, he had been a smart and charismatic kid who happened to struggle with ADHD, but the new kids in his honors classes at Thompson thought he was dumb and lazy, and for a long time, he believed that too. On one heartbreaking night his freshman year, he was so excited to meet up with his old friends at Mesa during a crosstown football game, but was turned back by security guards and sent to sit alone in the MVHS bleachers. My daughter was so overwhelmed after 1 year at Thompson that she moved to a charter school in another district for the past 2 years and is still unsure about coming back for high school, even though I live literally 2 blocks from MV. Watching them struggle these past few years, I constantly worry that I messed up by not finding a way for them to stay with friends they'd known since pre-K and kinder, and I wonder how things could have gone differently if I had. It might be too late for them, but please don't put thousands of other MVUSD students through the same situation unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we got Jeremy Murphy.
Hello, board. I appreciate the time again. I'm a dad of 3 kids in the district, all on the west side. It's a tough spot you guys have been put in, and a little tougher due to the actions of a single board member. I mean, Nick talking about limited resources is also very true in this situation because a lot of those limits were put in place by Nick. And with all due respect, Dr. Andrews, Nick's public comments from last summer and fall don't quite correlate with your prior explanation regarding his rationale. He specifically said the reason he blocked parents' vote was because his legal counsel told him he had a case to pursue funding from the state, implying legal action. At back to school night in the fall, when I personally asked him about it, he told me, quote, "Wait until I'm president." And when he said he would make it his #1 priority, during his board comment, that was a direct response to my question to him, promising legal action. So the district highlighting that the lobbying effort in Sacramento is somehow connected to his rationale for his bond vote is, I think, with all due respect, a little disingenuous. And it's actually kind of interesting. The town we moved from in North Dakota, they have a vote coming up on Tuesday, a bond vote for their district. And a couple of weeks ago, the local paper ran a story that showed possible district redistricting if the bond doesn't pass. And I thought this was interesting, and I wanted to share for a couple of reasons. One, I was kind of jealous that the parents back in my hometown get to vote on their schools. But the other one was, I thought it was kind of a transparent and proactive way to address a complex situation that has a variety of outcomes. So I hope, you know, looking at this proposal, it made me hope that the board is taking a proactive approach. The previous speaker talked about several elementary schools that are going to be at capacity within the window of time of transition. I don't know if there's been any, I know you solve one problem at a time, so I don't know if there's been any discussion about that, but it would be nice to know that we don't have to come back to this again anytime soon. The other thing I hope, and I'm sure it's been talked about, is transportation. You know, with the grandfathered in plan and the several years of multiple kids in neighborhoods going to multiple schools. I don't know how that works with busing, as far as multiple buses going into the same neighborhoods, picking up different kids, going to all separate schools, what that means for classified personnel, and increased transportation costs and things like that. So, you know, a lot of where you are is a result of reactive actions from decisions made over the summer and fall, like project lists and property flip-flops, which is now culminating in this tough decision. So I just hope that instead of being reactive in what's becoming a changing community, that you can be proactive and take the projections seriously. I know Nick said he doesn't believe in the projections, but I hope we can take them seriously to avoid additional headaches in the not so distant future. Thanks.
Right.
I would recommend holding your comments until the section for comments.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Justice Stiles.
I'm the father of three kids in this district. I'm here to protest the utter falsity of this entire redistricting process. I can't tell you how upset I am about it. The need for permanent district-wide disruption of school bounds is a manufactured crisis created by Nick Pardue when he blocked my and every other parent's ability to vote on whether we want to pay for a new school. We pay for it. Our district already has a 20% worse teacher-to-student ratio than the state at large. Compounding this, the city is bringing 9,000 new housing units online. Many of these are going to be occupied by young families with school-age kids. It's against this backdrop I've been forced to watch Mr. Pardue sit in this chamber and argue with the consultants that he helped hire about whether or not the district is actually overcrowded. Given that he's not accepting the figures published by the state or the expert opinion of his own consultants, I can only conclude that his position is untethered from reality. When you're elected a school board trustee, you're given one job: improve the educational outcomes of the students in the district. If you vote for policies that force our kids to labor in ever more overcrowded classes, you are not doing your job. I, and we, the parents of this district, demand this board do its job. Place a bond measure on the ballot to build the next school at the next election. Solve the actual problem of too few classes for our growing student population rather than hiding behind manufactured crises. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I'm afraid to, for this, I'm probably going to mispronounce it. Mrs. Addie Abishaush, how do I say it? Abishushe, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Andrus. My name is Addie Abishushe, and I'm an environmental researcher in the healthcare industry. In 2022, my husband and I moved across the United States with our then 3- and 5-year-old children to be near family. We settled here in Murrieta specifically because of the outstanding reputation and ratings of this school district. When the opportunity to participate in the redistricting process arose, I was eager to join that committee. Our committee has been afforded the benefit of privacy during our discussions, but I believe some level of transparency may be beneficial at this stage. I am not here to serve as a spokesperson for the committee, but I do want to express my gratitude to my fellow committee members, as well as Andrew and the Wolpert team, the district leaders, our school personnel, and all of my fellow parents and guardians who contributed to the redistricting surveys and open house meetings. With that in mind, and in an effort to offer some reassurance to the board ahead of the vote scheduled for tonight, I'd like to share a behind-the-scenes peek into the topics that guided our committee's discussions. First, no change just for the sake of change. We were all committed to ensuring that any boundary adjustments had a meaningful, thoughtful, and necessary impact. Attending the closest school, we wanted to ensure that students could attend the school closest to their homes and their neighborhood. School capacity and balanced enrollment. The committee paid close attention to ensuring that every school operated at an approximately equal capacity, with a focus on also balancing enrollment numbers across the district. The distribution of housing densities. We considered both current and projected housing density, aiming for a balanced distribution of single and multifamily housing between schools. Transitional feeder patterns. Our goal was to minimize emotional disruption during key transitions from elementary to junior high to high school by helping students to maintain as many social connections as possible. So in situations where school feeder patterns needed to be split, we limited that split to 2 schools with the goal of 50% of the student population going to each of those schools. Transfer requests and expectations for continuity. Our goal was to increase flexibility where transfer requests were considered. And we were very supportive of the rolling implementation plan that would enable students to transition based upon their initial enrollment and on their older siblings' transition patterns. And finally, analysis of deviations by neighborhoods. Lastly, we looked at each neighborhood's responses to the second survey to try to accommodate preferences that served as deviations. In conclusion, I want to reiterate that the committee worked diligently with a shared goal of ensuring a fair and equitable rezoning plan that would benefit all students, families, and personnel in this district now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes public comment. Item G7 is approval for proposed attendance boundary adjustments, and now we call on Darren Daniel for a presentation.
Thank you, President Pardue. Good evening, board. As you recall, last opportunity we got to meet, I presented you with the Redistricting Committee recommendations last month, and the board provided some critical feedback for implementation tonight. And so I'll be brief and I'll share the changes based upon your recommendations. The boundary phase-in implementation plan continues with a phase-in model that will culminate in 2030. Guess what is new to this is language acknowledging potential for residential student growth beyond what is being projected. Secondly, the only changes to the boundary implementation table is the redaction of high school to this. And so what this comes, instead of a TK-12 project, it's really a TK 8th grade implementation. Nothing has changed here about the implementation except for high schools falling off, which takes us to the elementary school attendance boundaries. And so pursuant to your direction last board meeting, we've taken it back from the committee recommendation, and what you can see here, the red circles on the district recommendation, you can see those small areas. Our goal here was really trying to balance student population across the district. And so there's a small area on the west side of the 15 freeway that moves from one school to another. In the middle, central, kind of in the Golden Triangle area, some small adjustments to the Rio Ranch of Baja Alta boundary to shift population to decrease Buchanan. And so that you can see on the district recommendation is in those circles. Relatively small adjustments, but I think with a favorable outcome. For our middle school attendance boundaries, nothing was proposed, so we've kept the parent committee recommendation for the attendance boundaries at the middle school. And as you recall, high school attendance boundaries, you asked that no change be affected there. So what you see here is our current attendance boundaries as they are intact today. Finally, the last conceptual projection enrollment update is with the changes that you recommended. It does provide a little more favorable balanced approach in our elementary schools and our middle schools, and high school is what it is. We have room in all 3 of our high schools. And so I'm here tonight to answer any final questions, and joined with Andrew Bishop from Wolpert in case there's some questions that come to me about the committee that I'm not able to answer. I'd like to defer to him.
I have a question. So,
Yes.
well, I have a statement. Well, first of all, my question is the goal of this was to even out enrollment, correct? Or
Our goal was to respond to the residential housing development increase in Murrieta. At the same time, yes, making sure we have adequate student housing at all of our schools and trying to balance schools across the district.
And how do administrators feel about this new projection?
The feedback that I've received is favorable. I know we had some concerns about some pockets in our community. Again, when we get over 1,000 kids in an elementary school, it is large. Not all of our school sites are exactly the same. You know, we have different land sizes for each one of our schools. But I think this, in comparison to last option, provides a little bit more of a balanced approach.
Thank you.
You actually asked my question. I was curious about staff's feedback, and then you just answered it. So,
you know, we had a number of opportunities to meet with principals regarding this project over the past 6 months, and I think all feedback with this has been positive.
All right, that's excellent.
Right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, with that concluded, I call for a motion to approve the boundary adjustments.
So moved. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eleanor.
One of us.
I second it.
I think I made a move. Second. Any discussion? Can I move?
Who was, I'm just marking, who was first?
I'm
Eleanor was first.
sure.
Second? Ms. Schmidt. Thank you.
Schmidt.
I make a motion to split the question. I would like to split the question between currently enrolled students and future enrolled students.
Mrs. Munoz, at the moment, there's already a motion.
Right.
Yeah, so we'd have to address that one
Robert
first.
Rules of Orders allows you to split the question while there's the motion open.
Okay, well, that would take it, then someone would have to second that. You're correct.
I'll second it.
So now we're going to take a vote, or we have a discussion on this. What's the motivation, I suppose, is what I'd like to know.
It'd be appropriate for our comments.
Yeah. Mrs. Munoz, do you have a motivation for
Yes.
for this?
I realize that the district is in a situation where we need to do something, right? We can't do nothing, right? We're in this terrible situation. We have to do something. There's a lot of unknowns. And I don't waste everybody's time re-asking questions that don't have answers, because I know nobody in this room has answers to the questions. They are truly unknown. Questions like Mr. Murphy raised about the impact to traffic patterns, questions about whether or not we can move programs from one school to another to create capacity, questions about what is our enrollment going to look like over the next year? Are we going to continue to see a decline, or is it going to increase? Those are just a few, but there's a lot of unknown questions nobody has the answer to. You know, I joke about my broken crystal ball. I would say all of our crystal balls are broken. So I realize we have to do something. So when I ask the administration, what is the driving force that's putting us in a position where we have to make a decision today, on this day? And it's because we want to set expectations for new families coming into the district about where they're going to go to school in the fall. So if that's the driving force, then let's split the question. New families coming into the district in the fall will go into the new pattern, and this will give the administration time to answer some of these unknown big questions and determine what should the phase-in pattern be, how would the grandfathering go out. Maybe we will have a conversation about another bond in a couple years. I don't know. But if the driving force is to provide direction and expectations to new families coming in, to me, the logical response is then to split the question, make it clear for the new families, and give the district the time they need to answer these difficult questions.
Okay. Okay, I want to respond because it sounds like you're conflating a lot of different things, and I know we have public comments on some of those issues as well. But right now we're discussing our boundaries.
I'm
And so-
not conflated. I'm very clear about what we're discussing.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're not discussing a bond right now. We're discussing boundary issues. So when we're looking at the boundary issues, and the issue I think that you're saying, in terms of splitting the question, because I didn't see a question here, but is you're wanting to make sure that existing families are able to be grandfathered in, which is, I think, something that was stated at all of our meetings. So I'm not sure what
A motion
you're
to
saying.
split the question is saying to basically divide the topic. So there's two topics that are being proposed in this resolution, right? One is about new families coming into the district and what school will they attend. Another one is about this cascading, I don't know what you call it, of existing families in the district and how they will phase into that new pattern. I'm asking the board to consider these as two separate questions. I'm actually saying when it comes time to vote that we should table the vote as to families currently enrolled in the district until we have answers and more information to make a fully informed, educated decision. And I would vote yes to having new families in the district going into the proposed pattern.
From everything I understand, that's exactly what this proposal is. So I feel like you're restating exactly what we're voting for.
It isn't though, Nick, because if we vote yes as a whole, then we're saying this goes into play and that new families will be phased in how it's being depicted there. I'm saying we need to table that until we get some of our questions answered.
I see.
So
Can you clarify?
me-
I hear what she's saying. I just need to know,
So-
what does that look like?
Right, so procedurally, because there's been a first and a second to split the question, so you'd have to first vote, the 5 of you, do you want to split the question? Then after that, if that fails, then you go back to the original first and second. If that is agreed to split the question, then we would need to have a new motion of what that two questions, or what that would look like.
I think therein lies the rub, right? We're splitting a question, and I don't see the difference, unless what you're saying is putting off, basically putting off the boundary change so that new families can continue in the current pattern.
I think in
I think that needs to be clarified.
Right, in function, and please help me, but my understanding of that is, if we were to split the question into, meaning it's the same lines, same boundaries, okay? But they would only apply to new families moving in, okay? Which is already part of what we said. But any existing family, which is on the chart, rather than taking a 5-year transition plan, would actually be an 8-year transition plan, because they would stay, existing families would stay in their current attendance boundaries through 5th grade and middle school. They would stay in their current boundaries all the way through. So a kindergartner today would stay in the existing feeder pattern all the way through their 8th grade, their elementary and middle school. But new families would start in new patterns. So by splitting the groups of people into two, you have new move-ins start in the current boundaries, and you have existing families stay in their existing schools and feeder patterns through their 8th grade year. Is that correct? Is that what you're referring to?
That would be the outcome if both of those passed.
Yeah, if
I would
both
suggest
passed.
that we table one of them, but yes.
Yeah. So procedurally, there's a to split the question, to address that first. Do you want to split the question as a board?
So for clarification, what is the logistical outcome? I mean, if what we're asking is for only the new, so we're speaking of newly enrolled once we make this decision, right? So the newly enrolled, how does that affect the work that the team has already done on the redistricting?
It would still honor the boundaries that are presented tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Brand new families moving into any of these new neighborhoods, any one of them,
Right.
they would simply, the new attendance boundaries would apply to a new move-in,
Right.
okay? And for them and forever, until we make future adjustments down the road when whatever else happens, but they would stay in that pattern. And I think what I'm hearing from Mrs. Munoz is that by splitting it, the existing family, so we're not talking about timeline or boundaries, we're talking about which group does this apply to. We apply
Okay.
to new families only, and we split existing families completely apart.
I do have one issue with this, is that I hear your proposal. That was not what I heard from Mrs. Munoz.
Unless you
So,
wanna
and I'm not
clarify.
trying to say that you're putting words in her mouth, but those were not the words that came out of her mouth.
Sorry.
So that's the difficulty
my
that
bad.
I'm having.
Sure, fair
But
enough.
I felt like you were translating what Mrs. Munoz was saying, and it may or may not be the case. So it sounded like a very complex, that's why I said conflating. There sounded like there was a lot there that had more to do with bond issues and building schools and all kinds of other things versus this decision that Dr. Andrus has spoken to.
I was explaining my rationale of why I thought we should split it. I think everybody's starting to learn about me that I'm not shy. If I thought he was misstating where I was trying to get, I would definitely speak up.
And sorry if I misspoke.
You did not.
Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, well, I guess, in my opinion, I'm just going to say I think we should stick with what we've all studied and looked at, but that's my personal opinion. Are there any other comments on this? All right, with that being said, we'd like to vote on Mrs. Munoz's proposal to split the question. Roll call vote. Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Pardue, I'm no.
Can I abstain?
Not in this case.
I am not clear on this split the vote thing.
So by splitting the vote, it means we wouldn't, the original G7 that's written in front of you, we would not vote on that. We would split the vote into two different ways, two different sections of people. We have to make new motions and then proceed. So that would be splitting it into two different, or an action representing two different groups of people.
Can I ask for a feedback from the district staff or not?
I think that's a fair question to ask for.
It just makes sense that all of this work that they've put in, I don't know what that means for them at the end of this.
I think what I tried to portray in my response earlier was that it would still honor the work around the boundaries. Those would still stay intact. New move-ins to our community, and doesn't matter if it's new housing or existing housing, they would follow the new pattern. However, existing families who already have children in school who have a legacy of attendance, we would have a separate question about attendance boundaries for them, and not boundaries, excuse me, implementation for them would be a separate question. So do you want to entertain that or stick with the first question? That is what's being proposed.
Understand it wouldn't, we're not permanently not doing it. It's just to gain time to look at more issues about it. It's not.
Then I'm a yes to split that vote.
I'm sorry, yes to split the vote?
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
And Mrs. Munoz?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 3-2.
Okay, so at this point in time, so to split the question, Mrs. Munoz, do you have, what is the question? Can you phrase the question into making a motion?
Yes. So I motion that we accept the proposed redistricting boundaries as to new families enrolling in the MVUSD district in the fall and forward. That's the first question.
Do it?
I'll
A motion?
second it.
A second? All right, any discussion?
So can you just explain that? So that means how it is now, what
The
we
boundaries
have,
are
it's
accepted
going to
as
be the
is.
same.
That's the first part I
Just
think
wanna
we all
double
agree
check.
on.
So all new families go to the newly assigned schools, and then the rest?
Well, that's a
we're just
separate
holding off
question.
on.
That's a separate
Yeah,
question.
separate
question.
That's the second question. All right, should we do a roll call vote again?
That would be
All
good.
right, Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Pardue, yes.
Yes.
Ms. Briggs? Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mrs. Munoz?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. For their second question, I think I'd like you to state it.
If you could.
It's on you, Yvonne. Go ahead.
So I motion as to families that currently have students enrolled in the MVUSD district that we table the discussion until such time as we have more information to make an informed decision about financial impact and potential disruption to those families.
Okay, so now we are tabling. That's a little different
That's the
than what I
motion. It's not a
understood.
no, it's just not now.
Means we'll bring it back. We're going to bring it back.
So no changes.
Yeah.
So existing families.
Existing
Sorry,
families.
please help us, Ms. Munoz, if I say this wrong.
So if you guys vote for this, then the impact of that is families that are currently enrolled in the district are going to keep doing what they've been doing until we as a board come back with more information with a new recommendation.
Yeah, I think this is a time to comment, so.
So I'm not sure why we're, just me, and maybe because I'm new, maybe because I'm blonde, I don't know, but I'm not sure why we are going to table this after all the work that's been done with the committees and the parents and the community coming and voting and doing the surveys and having these meetings. I thought that's what we've been doing, so I'm not sure why we would table it when we've done all this work and now we're going to wait. And the longer we wait, we're being more reactive rather than proactive.
I think I definitely agree with that. We had hired consultants. We spent a lot of money and time to really research what's happening with our families. The redistricting is mostly just an attempt to balance schools. So when we start deciding, oh, well, let's put this off until later, well, then that just kind of delays everything. We've all gone through this. I think it's interesting, too, that it's been such a smooth process. We've had a few comments, yes. We went through tonight with this on the agenda. We had very few comments. And I think it wouldn't serve our community very well to then have to go through this process again later at a later date and just to see what's happening. I agree that things change. I was stunned at CSBA to talk to Dr. Andrus, who then told me, Mr. Pardue, you were right. Our enrollment's dropped. And that changes the dynamics, right? So it could continue to drop, it could not, but I don't think it changes our need to balance these schools. And that's the same with the bond issue that came up previously, as some of the speakers had mentioned. The bond issue was we would have to redistrict because we're adding a school, and during that time, we could rebalance some of the schools. Now, we're not having a new school, and personally, as a taxpayer, very thankful for that, because it looks like we can balance our schools and not have to take on that expense of building a new school. And if those trends continue, we definitively don't need to have that. Now, as it is, our funding has dropped because of the declining enrollment. We could wait and we find out that we're in the same boat, but when we make these changes, we're in a good spot because the schools are balanced. And we will, there will be no need for us to make any changes. So I think we've had a lot of positive feedback, and to stop the process does not make any sense to me.
So we just voted unanimously that all new enrollees into the district would go into the new pattern that was recommended. And we've been told in every meeting and in every session that each one of us has had with the administrators that that's the driving force that we're trying to solution for, is the new growth in the community. Well, we've just voted unanimously to solution for that. We've also heard, I know I did in my meetings with the administration, and I'm sure all of you did too, that there's a lot of questions that we don't have answers to yet. And that's why I'm saying we table it. Not to say that we're gonna have to hire new consultants or that we're gonna have to start from scratch, but let's find out. Are there programs in certain school sites that can be moved around or consolidated to create space? What are we going to do about transportation issues? Mr. Murphy asked a great question. Are we going to have 2 buses coming into the same neighborhood? Like, what's that going to look like? We don't know answers to those questions yet. We don't know what our enrollment is going to look like yet. But what we have done today already, unanimously, which is beautiful, is we've solutioned for the Oedipus of our problem, which is the projected growth coming from new housing. So why disrupt the current residents until we have all the facts?
I don't see this as a disruption. And furthermore, we have had staff, and I think even the transportation department said how much sense the changes that we've made make. I think it's interesting also with the high school districts, we've always had a policy of allowing people to go to whatever high school they want to. So, and that's already really been addressed. So if I'm going through an elementary school and now I'm going to go to a middle school, now that might be some of an issue, but our middle schools are also a big part of the problem, right? Middle schools are overcrowded. We have Warm Springs Middle School is at a very low capacity. Meanwhile, other middle schools are at or above capacity. And keep in mind, the bond measure had nothing to do with middle schools. Middle schools are an issue, and we have to address it. And I think the sooner we address it, the less crowded those schools will be, and we'll be making a responsible decision today.
We did address it by unanimously voting that new students are going to go into new patterns. It's not like we're doing nothing. We just made a really impactful decision that solutions for the impending growth without disrupting current residents.
Okay, no, sorry, go ahead.
I think but that was already on here already for these new families, so it's not like we voted like something brand new. This was already on here, and what we decided. And I'm just curious as to why we've been talking about this for several months and all the work going into it, and just now, like, it's just kind of blowing my mind that just now there's a problem with it when we've kind of all, this issue hasn't come up before. And our and all the thought and with the consultant and with Darren and everyone making this plan and the committees and the parents and the feedback, that now when we actually vote on it, now it's going to be an issue. That doesn't make sense to me. And then if we don't, and then even in speaking to administrators, they're like really happy with this because, and I know I work at an elementary school, the more students you have, it impacts the behavior. So we asked for the committee to go back and do the updates that we asked you to keep the elementaries under 1,000. And they did that. They took the direction. There was never a direction last time to table it or anything. So I think as far as like being a school employee, administrators, we're like at the end of the year. I know it's not really for kids, but technically, you know, administrators are looking on to next year and next year's projections and what that's going to look like. And right now they feel comfortable and happy. I mean, I don't speak for all of them, but from what I've heard, they're happy with this. And so now we're causing probably some anxiety with them of what's their enrollment's going to look like next year. And again, we had the parents, they did the survey, and they agreed, they were the driving force.
I would like to add that your proposal actually does create a new twist, which means middle schools will be impacted directly because some families would be attending conceivably a different middle school, and middle schools are overcrowded. And we have a middle school in particular that's way underutilized. So it would completely destroy the concept that we're fixing the middle school issue, overcrowding issue. So, but I agree with Ms. Schmidt. I don't think we destroy the work that's been done on this vote, because I do think there's a very different issue.
I think that's a gross mischaracterization, and with all due respect, Ms. Schmidt, the same questions that I don't have answers to today are the same questions that I asked in our last board meeting. You sat next to me and I asked the questions about transportation, I asked the questions about storage, I asked the questions about programming. I'm still asking those questions and I still don't have answers. I also disagree with the characterization that it would be blowing up or minimizing any of the good work that the parent group has done or that the staff has done. because we just voted unanimously to put that into play for newly enrolled students. And so I think that's a gross mischaracterization.
Would you like to address the middle school issue that I brought up?
New families coming in would go into the new pattern, and from everything that we've been told in our preparatory sessions, it's that new growth that would be causing the overcrowding. When I looked at what the projections would look like if we did nothing, existing patterns, they do get to overcrowding at the 10-year mark, right? Well, we're not doing nothing. Newly enrolled families will go into the new pattern, and that directly addresses the concern you have about the middle schools. It directly addresses the concern you have about the elementary schools, unless you believe that it's the currently enrolled families that are going to cause the overcrowding.
The currently enrolled families are causing the overcrowding at middle schools.
Because isn't like Thompson is already at its limit, Dr. Andres?
Yeah.
Well, that just raises another issue that I have, right? Because I keep hearing that current families are going to get grandfathered into their current feeder patterns, which means we're setting an expectation for the currently enrolled families, nothing's changing for you. If that's true, then it's no different than what I'm saying. If it's not, then we need to be honest about what grandfathering really means.
I'm going to address that because I think you're confused. If we have a family that exists here and they're going to Murrieta Elementary School, let's just pretend, I don't really know, I should use a different example. But if they're at an elementary school and they're going to go to a middle school, they're an existing family, right? But now the boundaries changed. So this existing family that maybe thought they were going to be going to Thompson, now they're going to, let's say, Chevala, or from Chevala or McElhaney or whatever to Warm Springs, which is what we're trying to accomplish. What you're proposing says, no. Since you're an existing family, you didn't just move here, you can continue to go to the overcrowded school, middle school. So you're changing the dynamic and saying, we're not going to touch the middle schools. We're going to just leave that exactly as it is, only if you brand new moved in. So if I live here and I have a kindergartner, that kindergarten kid's going to end up probably in a friend group, actually, as they go through, that's going to go to one middle school while I'm going to go to another. Granted, our district, we allow people to transfer to the schools they want, especially with their space. Like, we're really lenient. I don't think any of the things that we're proposing takes away from families that have unique needs where they can transfer to the school they'd like to go to if there's space. But we've gone through this process, and I'm surprised how smooth it's been to this point.
I mean, but that's like a key phrase right there, if there's space. But what was written into the presentation was that peoples would be able to follow in the footsteps of their siblings, I think is the wording that was in the deck, right? That sets an unrealistic expectation, because what I'm hearing you say is what I think would actually happen. It would be based off of capacity and space availability, which means that everybody doesn't get to follow in their older brother's footsteps.
No, I don't think you listened to me very well. I said that if I have a student at an elementary school, I don't have a sibling at Thompson, I have my kids at an elementary school. I'm supposed to go to Thompson, but our district got changed, now I'm going to Chevala. Let's just say I don't know that that's the case. Then that would change. They would be going to Chevala, and that would help reduce the population at Thompson, right? Now, if I'm a family and I have a student at Thompson, and I have kids at the elementary school, those kids at the elementary school would then go to Thompson because a sibling went to Thompson. And we've already discussed as a group that high school students can go to any high school they want to.
It sounds like you're supporting my motion then, because if you're saying that we're going to grandfather in everybody based off of their historic feeder patterns, we're saying the same thing. And with all due respect, Nick, we can have a dialogue on here without you deminimizing me. I'm not confused. I'm actually quite astute, and I would appreciate that candor cease.
I will always use candor when I speak, but what I think is important is that we're understanding what we're saying, okay? Because now you're agreeing with me, but I don't think we were earlier. So let's just, I think unless anyone else has more comments, it's time for a vote.
Just, there's a first and a second. Mrs. Young, you made the second on that? Is that correct?
Splitting the vote?
We already split the vote.
I think I did.
Okay.
The motion is to table, right?
Motion is to table
Oh, okay.
the part of the transition plan that affects existing families.
All right, that calls for a roll call vote. Ms. Young,
Yes.
you were saying yes to table.
Yeah, I would like to maybe bring it back next month.
Okay. I oppose, no. Ms. Briggs,
No.
Ms. Schmidt,
No.
Ms. Munoz,
Yes.
motion fails. Do we need to call a new motion to have the existing language?
Yes.
Okay, I move for the existing language for our school boundaries.
Point of order. We've already voted to split the question, so we need a new motion just on the open topic. We can't go back to the original resolution because we've already voted unanimously to split the question.
That's fair. We can go back to the first question, the original question.
So we have to make the motion?
From my understanding is that we voted unanimously for the boundaries which are in the proposal. And now we're voting to keep the language, the second question.
We split
From
the
the first
question, so somebody needs to make a motion about what you want to do with families currently enrolled in the district. That's the open issue. We've already settled the issue as to newly enrolled families into the district.
Continue.
That would be reasonable to make a motion.
I move that we grandfather in existing students. The language we had and we discussed over and again is what I want to see in place. So whatever the language is for that, that's what I'm moving to keep. And from what I understand, that was in the original presentation. So is there language around that that we can use for that motion?
I didn't have our attorney come tonight, sorry. These are good questions, although he did reply to me about splitting. Again, in all transparency, trying to help us through.
It really feels like there are two different versions of grandfathering as that's being discussed. And then the language being used actually becomes contradictory. So
That's why I think we need more time to work this through because I haven't gotten clear answers on grandfathering. I haven't seen a written policy about how it's actually going to get implemented. There's real legitimate questions that we as a board need answers to. What's the harm on tabling this until next month so we can get those answers?
Is there a harm?
We've already voted not to table it. So so the question before the board, because it's still on the agenda, and we split it into two pieces. So a motion might be to approve the, I'm looking at the original language, approve the current attendance boundaries as presented in the presentation.
I move to keep everything you just said.
Sorry, we're trying to honor all the voices. So the motion would be to, Mr. Pardue, your motion would be
My motion is to
approve the boundaries and timeline for existing families as well as presented.
That would be my motion. I would love to recite that, but since I do not have the capacity to do that.
Get that in writing.
Yeah, let's get that in writing.
Need that in writing, okay?
I think she's working on it.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Just watch the replay. I second the motion.
I hope everybody sees the board is working hard for you. We're really trying to get this
They're
right.
working really hard to do it. Oh, you have to probably push a button. Or just, sorry, we're getting help from our secretarial support here, which we need.
I do need clarification. So right now I have, the motion is to approve attendance boundaries and timelines for existing families as presented this evening.
Sounds right.
That is my motion.
And I second the motion.
All right, roll call vote. Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Pardue, yes.
Yes.
Ms. Briggs? Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Item G8, presentation of 2024-25 LCAP mid-year report. I call him Faith Munchnick. Jax.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, there we go. Does this work? Does the...
Give it a try.
It does? Okay, wonderful. Okay, good evening, board members and district community. Thank you for your time tonight. As I provide you with a mid-year update on our LCAP, I will keep it quick. It's getting late. Do you want to manually move it? Okay, wonderful. So just a reminder that this was a requirement that was added, that we report on the LCAP and budget overview on or before February 28th of each year at a regular school board meeting. And we are to report on all available mid-year outcome data related to the metrics identified in our LCAP, as well as mid-year expenditure and implementation data on all the actions. So tonight I will give you a brief overview, highlight some items, but you have the complete document, and if you want to look at that more closely, you can. As I shared, the two key areas we'll be reviewing are the metrics and the expenditures and implementation. In terms of the metrics, we'll share specific data if it's available. We'll also articulate whether the outcome is known or whether it is in progress or unknown. Some of our metrics we're still gathering data on. For expenditures, we'll share with you the original budget for each action and then the revised mid-year budget. Please note, this is not like how much we've already spent. It's just our revised, what we anticipate spending by the end of the school year, okay? And then we'll also identify whether each action has been fully implemented, partially implemented, or not implemented. I will bring to your attention work in progress. LCAP is a work in progress, okay? So that's really what this update is about, is letting you know where we are at this moment in time. Goal 1, a reminder that we have 4 goals, and goal 1 for our LCAP is student learning and achievement. This slide highlights some of our key metrics in goal 1, CASP data for ELA and math, CAS science, college and career indicator, and our CTE pathway completion rate. For all of our metrics, you'll see the baseline for 23-24, our mid-year update, where we are right now, and then our desired outcome, what we're hoping to achieve in 26-27, which is the end of the 3-year LCAP. For CASP and CAS data, we are making progress towards our desired outcome in the majority of grade levels and subjects. The exception is 11th grade math and science, which has remained pretty static. And then both of our college career indicator and CTE pathway completion data are showing strong growth, with the latter exceeding our desired outcome in a single year, which is really exciting. And then all of the data for this goal has a known outcome, which has been provided under that status column. In terms of our goal 1 actions, each is listed with its originally planned budget and then its revised budget. You'll see that most are relatively close to the original budget. Class size and AVID came in a little higher than originally budgeted. The first 3 actions have been fully implemented. AVID, CTE, and college career are marked as partially implemented, as these are items where we're purchasing or we've got services going that are developing within these areas. And again, when I say something is partially implemented for any of this, it doesn't mean that we are not doing what we said we were going to do, but just the nature of the action. There's things that occur throughout the entire school year. Goal 2 is intervention. And you'll see some metrics here for Goal 2. We have mid-year iReady data, middle and high school multiple F rates, and progress of our English learners, and all outcomes are known. You see steady growth in our mid-year iReady data. For multiple F rates, we are seeing a small decline in those at both the middle and high school level, which is really a move in the right direction. And we are very excited about the progress of our English learners by the LP there at the bottom. Great growth in this metric, moving from 50.8% to 56.8% progress of our English learners. Again, with our actions, overall, the revised budget is very close to our original budget. Elementary intervention teachers came in a little bit low, and our LTEL supports were a bit above, but nothing significant. All of our actions have been fully implemented other than the English Learner Program. Goal 3 is professional development. We just have 2 metrics listed on here, both in regard to the induction program, participation of teachers in it, and then the percent that will complete their credential. 100% of our new teachers are taking part in induction. We do not yet know the percent that will clear their credential. Goal 3 for PD has a lot of the metrics from the other goals repeated, so I didn't put them in here again, and you can see them in the full report. Okay. Actions for Goal 3 are listed here. All of our budgets have stayed very close to the original budget. Instructional coaching and data and assessment programs are fully implemented, and our induction and curriculum work teams are partially implemented at this time. Goal 4 is engagement and school culture. In this, you'll see one of our key metrics in Goal 4 is our LCAP surveys. They are in progress right now. We are just collecting that data. We have a lot of the questions from that survey that are in the full report. I just put an example of one so that you can kind of see what that looks like. Our suspension rate has declined and is approaching our desired outcome, so that's something that's good to see. And our attendance rates are also in progress, as they're based on the reporting window that closes this spring. But our chronic absentee data is from last year, and you can see that it has declined. We're making strong progress toward our desired outcome of 17.4%. The goal for actions are listed here. Our revised budget is fairly close to the original budget. Some variance in equitable and inclusive practices and educational partner engagement. And for all of the goals, we'll be charged to speak to any significant differences in the final LCAP. We kind of use 10% as our measure, so if it goes either above or below 10%, then we speak to it in the LCAP. Otherwise, we don't consider it a significant difference. All of our goals all of our actions in this goal are marked as partially implemented, as there are continued services and expenditures that will be provided during the second semester. I feel like I speed went through this. I did my best. I do want to say there's a lot of numbers, a lot of data, a lot of information, but it is important that you know that these all represent services and actions to support our students, primarily our low income, our English learners, and our foster youth. They're very important, and so while I did speed through it, when we get to the LCAP at the end of the year, or if at any time you have any questions, I welcome you to ask, because this is really important work, but the update is what it is, and it's 8-something, and I'm just being respectful of everybody's time. So if you have any questions now, I'm open to them too.
Thank you, Faith.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Faith. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I did want to say, Ms. Briggs, that you referred to me, first of all, thank you for your kindness about the spelling bee. You referred to me as the master. It is just the bee master. That's the only thing I'm master of.
That's right. I left that out. I'm so sorry.
Let's be clear on that.
Yes, the bee master.
Thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You did do a great job with the spelling bee.
All right, we're moving on to item G9, election of representatives to the California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly for Subregion 18A. The board may vote for a total of 6 individuals of Subregion 18A, including write-in candidates. The board may cast no more than 1 vote for any one candidate. The following candidates are listed on the ballot. All right, with this, we can only vote for 6, and there are 9 names listed. No one else has this, do they? They don't have the list of delegates. Do you guys have it? Oh, you do have it? Okay.
They can see the names.
Okay.
It's on the agenda.
Okay. I have, yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
I have 2 suggestions.
Sure.
You and me.
Those are the 2 suggestions. I got you. All right. Does anyone else have suggestions for, well, I will make some suggestions. Dr. Joseph Komrosky and Kenneth Prado, David Sanchez, those are 4 in the middle that I do approve of. Does anyone?
So how do we vote? Like, how do we just submit names and say, here's the 6?
I would. So it actually takes a vote of the board to select up to 6 names that at least 3 of you agree to. That would be like the minimum.
I would like to add Douglas Corona.
I would like for the Southwestern Valleys to be well represented. So I would actually like anybody here, so the 2 of you, anybody from Temecula. I don't know how many that adds up to.
That's
but
4.
I would really like for the Southwestern Valleys to be well represented.
I would like to also add Cleveland Johnson from Moreno Valley.
Yeah, the incumbents will make it through anyway.
Do you happen to know the incumbents?
They have an asterisk by their name.
Madonna, Cleveland.
They automatically make it through.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Oh.
Well, we can
Pardue,
add them to our votes.
On your script, you don't have the asterisks. It's on the item. Sorry.
It's okay. So the asterisks, would you mind reading those for me? Cleveland and Madonna, you said? Or
Madonna, Cleveland, David, and Steve Schwartz.
David and Steve Schwartz. Okay, and the feeling is that those will make it.
Get the South.
So we don't have to vote on them, is what you're saying?
We're voting on, we can vote for up to 6.
Oh,
We can
okay.
vote for fewer than 6.
Oh.
We can vote for just the
You know
2
what?
of us if you want to increase the odds. I mean, it's up to you.
Right. I would like to see Dr. Komrosky and and Ken Prado and Nancy Young. I think that would be fair. And if we voted for those 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I second that for Nancy, Nick, Joseph, and Ken Prado.
How about Douglas Corona from Paris?
Well, hold on.
Southwest.
Yeah, I don't know how this
That
works.
went really
I know
fast.
him. Yeah.
Because I know I'm looking at Julie trying to take note. Because it went from some names and then a second. So Mr. Pardue, do you want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we actually only vote for 4. And the reason, the number one reason is I feel like it is important that we have the opportunity to get on the board or on as a delegate because we do want our region represented. Additionally, I do think it's important. This is such an important position because we have the ability to lobby on our behalf, right? And that's just so valuable for us. And so that's why I suggest the names that I listed. So that's my motion for those 4. Do I have a second?
Could you say the names again?
Dr. Joseph Komrosky, Nicholas Pardue, Kenneth Prado, and Nancy Young.
I second.
All right, can we have a vote? All in favor?
I motion to amend.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, don't we have to vote first?
So.
No, because if you vote, then I can't amend it.
Good point. So there's a first and a second on the floor, and you want to make a motion to amend it. The feedback I got from our attorney while in the meeting is that Mr. Pardue, since you made the motion, you need to be willing to accept the amendment or allow the amendment to be made.
I will allow the amendment to be made.
There we go.
Does that
Okay.
mean
Yep,
I approve it, or that just means?
No,
that we're
now
gonna
she
let
can
her
make
vote
the amendment.
both
Vote
ways?
on it
Yep.
later.
I really would like the Southwestern Valleys to be well represented. So I would like to amend to include all names listed from Temecula Valley Murrieta Valley.
You need a second? Or how does that work now?
You have to vote on whether or not to accept the amendment.
Yeah, that would make sense. Do you want to accept the amendment?
Okay, so do we vote now?
Yeah.
Are you vote? Yeah. Do you want to? Do
We
you
got
want
a
to
second?
accept the amendment?
I personally do not want to accept the amendment because I understand Mr. Schwartz's philosophy, and it is completely against mine. And I feel like accepting Nancy Young on is her voice is essentially Stephen Schwartz's voice, and I don't want to double. I know that you're not the same person.
No, we are definitely not the same person.
I understand. I should just say
shocked that
the
you actually
perspective.
said that to
I just would say perspective tends to be the same.
For one thing, I'm not from New York and I'm not a man, so. And there are many other issues.
All true.
Great point taken, Nancy.
And so that's why I'm against the motion. But let's have a roll call vote. Ms. Young?
Yes, to accept the
To
amendment.
accept amendment.
yeah.
No, to accept amendment. I'm voting no.
No.
And Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Yes, so 3-2. So
the amendment
amendment
fails.
fails.
So now it's a question.
Now we're voting for the four,
which is
four names: Dr. Komrosky, myself, Kenneth Prado, and Nancy Young.
And there is a first and a second already.
There was a first and a second, so we were only voting for four. All right, roll call vote. Ms. Young?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ms. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Munoz? Ms. Munoz, did you vote?
I'm desiring discussion. I think we skipped discussion. I don't understand why we would put forward somebody in Hemet Unified School District over people in our own valley. Like, I don't understand why the board would make that decision. We're supposed to be here representing our community. I hear what you said about, representation, but aren't these supposed to be nonpartisan positions? Like, who cares? I mean, we're supposed to be representing the families of this community. Why would we favor someone else over the people in our own community? I don't understand why we would vote that way.
I would like to respond to that because philosophy does matter. We just went to and saw the CTA president. It's supposed to be nonpartisan. I can tell you CTA is very partisan. It's unfortunate, but that's the realities. And as we go through CSBA trainings and different things that I've attended over the years, it's very partisan. The attitudes directed towards conservative voices are ridiculously hostile. So as a conservative board, my vote is to make sure we have some conservative voices at CSBA. I think it's important that they exist and they're heard. And unfortunately, conservative voice has been silenced even in this chamber. So I think that's my rationale. And I know Kenneth Prado to be a good man, a fair man, and that's why I suggested to add him.
He wasn't elected by this community, though. That's my issue, is that we're supposed to be here representing the community. And I would beg to say that this is not a conservative board. This is a board of the people.
Well, can I comment? And I think to Mr. Pardue's point, Yvonne, I'm going to get the titles right, Ms. Faith or B Master. I think to the point of, the nonpartisan position of the board and where it stands, I think we are a nonpartisan board. In terms of CSBA in this specific position, my stance is I know Kenneth Prado personally. I don't necessarily know Steve Schwartz personally. So that is my rationale for that. And the fact that I'm on course 3 now, or not course 3, class 3 of the CSBA's sponsored classes, and I will agree with Mr. Pardue on this point that there has to be a balance, and I don't think currently there's a balance, and I think the 4 that we will be sending or recommending, I don't even know if they're going to get voted in, right, that we're voting for will bring that balance that's needed. And it's not swinging the pendulum either way. I just think it's just middle of the road, and it would be a good thing. So
your vote?
No.
All right, 4-1, motion passes. Item G10, approval of site single plans for student achievement for 2024-25 school year. Call for a motion.
So moved.
And a second? A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item G11 is our student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-138. And is that you, Ms. Young?
Yeah. I move that the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Education Code 48900 A1 and A2 under Education Code Section 48915B for the remainder of the current semester and all the first semester of 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item G12, student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-140. That's Mrs. Young again.
Yeah. I move that the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Education Code 48900 A1 and A2 under Education Code Section 48915B for the remainder of the current semester and all of the first semester of the 2025-2026 school year.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item G13, student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-141. Mrs. Schmidt.
I move that the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Education Code 48900 A1 and A2 under Education Code Section 48915B for the remainder of the current semester and all of first semester of 2025-2026 school year.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item G14, student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-142. Mrs. Briggs.
I move the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Ed Code 48900A1 and A2 under Ed Code Section 48915 for the remainder of the current semester and all of the first semester of 2025-26 school year. The enforcement of the expulsion shall be suspended. The educational placement of the student during the term of the expulsion will be determined by the superintendent or designee consistent with state law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item G15, student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-143. Mr. Pardue. I move that the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Ed Code 48900 A1 and A2 under Education Code 48915B for the remainder of the current semester and all of the first semester of the 2025-2026 school year. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G16, student discipline expulsion case number 2024-2025-144. Mr. Pardue. I move that the Board of Education of the Murrieta Valley Unified School District expel the student for the violation of California Ed Code 48900 A1 and A2 under Education Code 48915B for the remainder of the current semester and all of the first semester of 2025 and 2026 school year.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item G17, adoption of resolution number 24-25-18, approval of Procure Extended Learning Opportunity Program Service. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G18, adoption of resolution number 24-25-19, authorization of encumbered funds for fiscal year 2025-26. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. G19, approval and adoption of joint community facilities agreement with the Eastern Municipal Water District and Leonard Homes of California, LLC. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G20, approval of change order for contract C00000873 for the Murrieta Elementary new classroom building project. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G21, approval to award a contract to Borderland, Inc. in the amount of $95,500 for district-wide firewall support. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G22, approval to award a contract to CDW Government LLC in the amount of $489,951.08 for district-wide wireless hardware and support. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. I don't even get it. There we go. Item G23, approval to award a contract to Riverside County Office of Education in the amount of $43,000 for district internet service provider. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Item G24, approval to award an annual contract to Crown Castle Fiber LLC for $31,800 to provide leased lit fiber and leased dark fiber service for the Early Learning Center through
That's
June
fancy stuff right there.
30th, 2023. What?
That's fancy stuff right there.
That's something. I would love to hear what that's all about. So through June 30th, 2030. I know you can tell me quickly probably. What is it?
It's our fiber optic cable that gets internet from here to there.
Perfect. Calls for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All in, wait, no one's opposed, and it's getting late. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Closed session. So there was a statement that you needed me to read to go to closed session. I call for a motion to move to, wait, do we need a motion to move to closed session?
No, hold on just a moment.
Right back. Oh, I got it. The board was unable to address all the closed session discussion items within the allocated time at the beginning of the meeting. As a result, we will reconvene in closed session at, holy Toledo.
8:50.
That's 8:50. No action will be taken in closed session. As such, there will not be a report out. The board will adjourn the meeting at the conclusion of closed session. I call for a motion and a second to reconvene in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Closed session.